psycho.
I'm not a psycho. I'm a podcast.
Cyborg, is that right?
It doesn't really work, but
no. So what Griffin will
two
do
keywords
is he'll take a quote from the movie,
yes,
and then he'll put podcast in there,
destroy it,
and now obviously
suplex it.
For this miniseries, we're doing movies that are mostly in another language, so it's even worse what you're doing, really.
Yeah, but by the way, we're coming off a miniseries where all the films were silent.
That's true. The last miniseries we did, I'm talking to our guest.
I don't know why you're telling me.
I'm so confused, David. Who are you talking to?
I know.
Is this even a podcast?
Was Buster Keaton. So those were silent. So that was a real challenge for you.
Right.
It's true. Yes.
Sometimes I'll do taglines.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, sometimes I do quotes, but it does get more difficult when it's a foreign film. We've covered other foreign films before. The thing that gets more difficult is I'm already bad at impressions.
Okay.
Right? But when you're doing a foreign film and it's like, I'm going to do the American translation of the line, which means I'm totally losing the line reading.
Right.
I can't even approximate how they performed it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Wait, where did you watch the movie? Like on what platform?
I'm not trying to like fucking big dog you. I'm not trying to like come in here trying to show off.
Okay.
You know, you're a first time guest. We're excited to have you. I did import a Blu-ray from England.
Whoa, I didn't even know that was possible.
Never foreign Bluray.
And I got David a copy.
You got me a
well.
copy.
I got a
too.
deal.
I
There was
sent you a copy.
You did. Well, I was
We sent you a
confused.
Google Drive link.
The Google Drive link didn't have subtitles. So there was a moment where I was like, are David and Griffin secretly fluent in Korean?
Korean?
I do. I just
okay,
watched the
so
movie
you did
and it was
okay.
fine.
All right. The version I had, but I think there is something tough about sending subtitled.
Sometimes it doesn't work.
To download it.
Oh,
Okay.
But like that's my
I
fault.
refuse.
In the
But
player,
I think
you
I
could-
did
okay.
think like, well, Karen probably speaks Korean. Like,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
maybe I wasn't as worried.
What an
about
No,
it.
it
assumption.
was fine.
It is. I mean, I just know you've lived in Korea. I
Yeah,
don't know too much about your life.
Oh no, okay, that's fine.
But I think I figured. Well, anyway, if you hadn't understood the movie, you probably would have gotten in touch.
Right. Yes.
But it was still, I don't know, kind of passive error on my part.
No,
David
it's no
David and I are
problem.
big physical media simps.
We are.
okay.
And
I didn't know people still had Blu-ray.
Oh, this is disgusting. You
these
have to
two
leave.
guys. These two guys have too many of them.
I have so many
I
Blu-rays.
say as someone who's fucking having to move Blu-rays over from
You're
one
moving
apartment
them,
to
are
another.
you moving them over?
Yeah.
All of them?
No, I'm paring down a little bit.
And they buy physical media,
Uh-huh.
Karen, of like for movies they don't like.
Wait, why?
I don't know.
This is not okay.
I would say that's not entirely true.
That's not entirely true. There is a little bit of completism with movies we are covering on the podcast.
It can be fun to
Just have to look and go like, the history of doing this show. I don't regularly buy movies I don't like. Sometimes there's a movie I don't like by a director we're covering.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, let me have the disc.
How many discs do you have?
I can't answer
It's
this.
too much.
I can probably find a picture.
Wow,
For you.
do you not have the internet? Is that what's happening?
Dude, but Karen,
What if that was the issue?
He's like, I've never figured out my Wi-Fi
We
password.
tried to
What?
hook it up, but I don't know. The plug doesn't work. Remember when Colin Quinn held up an iPhone charger plug for us?
We've never said this on mic.
Can we say it on mic or can we not?
Let's say this on mic with all respect.
Wait,
Yeah,
is
ton
this
of
currently recording for the podcast?
This
Yeah.
is
Oh,
right
yeah.
now.
Yeah,
No,
we're
this is happening.
deep in the podcast.
We're
Let's
in
say
it.
that.
I'm gonna try and find you my DVD
It's been like
shelf.
2 years now. Colin
Yeah.
Quinn was a lovely man.
Lovely
Yeah,
man,
And,
and took
we'd like to have him back on
and
the
he
show.
took
Love to have
time
him
out
back
of
on
his
the show.
schedule to come on our podcast.
And let's say this, we'd love to have him back on the show in person.
Correct.
That's
That'd be great.
That's the adjustment we'd make. Colin was very generous, offered his time about 5 minutes before we were about to start recording. And this is when we're sort of coming out of pandemic. We were recording at Ben's living room. We didn't have a permanent space. We were still doing some Zoom records, but trying to move away from them. 5 minutes before recording, he goes, I got a problem. I can't the microphone won't turn on. And I said, what is it? And he went, I got the right cable, but it's not. And I go, so what are the options, Colin? And he goes, I go to Best Buy now and I try to find it. I don't know if I find it. Or, we reschedule for another day. Or we try to just do it with what we have. And I said, okay, let's get on the Zoom. Our producer will talk you through it. And he turned his microphone around and he goes, I got the right. And then I got the cable. And see, it's just not fitting in. It's the right cable. And it was two entirely different plugs.
He was holding up an iPhone charger, from what I remember.
He was throwing up an iPhone charger.
and saying, this won't plug into my computer. And I wanted to be like, That's not part of your microphone.
Right.
And of course it won't plug into your computer.
It was
Yes.
the back of the mic.
He
had,
wanted
like,
a micro USB.
Right.
Right.
Right. Well,
That's
my
very
memory was
sweet.
the back of the microphone had like a USB port that was much wider.
Hmm.
And then he had the little lightning plug from an iPhone charger and he was putting it in and he was saying like, it goes in, but then it falls out.
I mean, that's fair.
To be clear, lovely guy.
The best. The best. It was a great
Um,
episode.
Yeah,
It was a fun
absolutely.
episode. I feel like after about, an hour, he was sort of like, so we're just kind of saying the same thing over and over, aren't we?
How long you fucking do this for?
Karen, there are my discs.
Oh my God.
That's my
That's
disc shelf.
so many. Honestly, they look great. Are they organized in any particular fashion?
By director.
Yep, same.
Wow. And alphabetically?
by director.
a director
and then
last name?
alphabetically with it. And then sometimes I'll be like, wait, who directed like Rambo 3? Like, and
Yeah,
it's-
right. Well,
where do I put this?
That's the thing. Do you get the franchise box set so you have them all together, or is it better to split the individual entries up? These are really tough questions. These are
Yeah.
things that keep us up at night.
Mhm.
But this movie has never been released in the United States.
What
Correct.
movie?
It never, the film we're
I'm a
talking about
Cyborg.
today, I'm a cyborg, but that's okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Never got a theatrical U.S. release. It
Never
some,
got
like, some
theatrical
festival
U.S.
screenings.
release, but also never got an American DVD release or Blu-ray release.
Yeah.
I saw this movie originally on an import DVD,
Whoa.
and now I have finally acquired import
I'm sorry,
Blu-ray.
can you turn your phone off? A lot of cute girls are calling you right
Hey.
now.
Hey, wait a second. Hey, wait a second.
They heard that news. Can I tell you, I just found there's no tagline for this
Sure.
movie in America, obviously.
Yeah.
But I found a French tagline.
Okay.
Elle est folle, il est fidèle,
Uh-huh.
which means she's crazy, he's crazy about her.
Oh.
That's the tagline.
I would argue that he is also crazy.
He is a little crazy, not to use, such loaded language.
But they
but
started it.
they did start it.
This fucking tagline writer started it.
But that is a tagline I found for you. It's the
Yeah.
only tagline I could find.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be a
She's podcast. He's podcast about her.
Well, wait. Is there a tagline on this poster? Come
Okay.
over, Karen.
Let's see. Deep dive, close examination.
It's just like actor names and this
Okay.
year's couple. Okay, I guess that's sort of a tagline.
That's a good tagline.
I don't think it's a tagline though, because it's in a font that's too big to be a tagline. I wonder if that's just like
Interesting.
when they were promoting it, they like slapped that on.
Or that was like an award it was given.
Yeah.
It's not a tagline. It's like a film
Yeah.
festival laurels.
The next year, Barack and Michelle Obama.
Yeah. This year's couple, 2 fictional people in a mental institution. Next year, the president and first lady of the United States of America. Listen, this is Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm Griffin.
I'm dude.
I'm Karen.
Fuck.
Oh, that's brilliant.
That's cool.
She just butted in.
That's cool.
Hey, Karen.
Hi.
Let's just flip it out of order. Our guest today
Mhm.
from Late Night with Seth Meyers,
Mhm.
great comedian Karen Chee.
Hey,
Hi.
Karen.
Hello.
Welcome. Thanks for coming.
And this is
Aw.
a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their careers and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. And sometimes those checks clear and sometimes they bounce. Baby,
Mm-hmm.
this is a miniseries on the films of Park Chan-Wook.
Mm-hmm.
And today we're talking about I'm a Cyborg, but that's okay.
Mhm.
And are we officially just, because this is the second episode we've recorded.
Yeah. Just call it what you want to call it. I think you should.
I'm a podcast, but that's okay.
He wants to call our miniseries
We're
I'm a
overruling the
Podcast,
vote.
but that's okay.
Yeah.
We had a fan vote that picked sympathy for Mr. Podcast.
Right. In addition to butchering a line from the movie at the beginning of every episode, I butcher one title in every episode
Uh-huh.
as the larger miniseries name. And this film is not very well known in the
Griffin,
United
all
States
these
because it's
girls
never
are
gotten.
calling. Turn your phone off.
Fucking AT&T is telling me that I'm crashing their server.
Too many cuties.
Cell phone towers are catching on fire. But yes, but I think that's the funniest one.
I think it's the funniest one, and I also think it's good now to ignore Twitter,
yeah,
which is
Twitter-
a bad website.
We're gonna keep doing Twitter polls just to ignore them.
Right. Take that.
Yes.
Twitter.
What about I'm a Cyborg, but that's podcast?
Well, that's
Fuck,
fine.
That's a good.
Doesn't make a
concept.
lot of sense.
By the end of this episode, I'm going to be the new host.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know
You're
what?
taking over.
I could take a year
Yeah.
off. It's
You're
fine.
better at doing this than we are.
You're
The
just
Blank
you're just
Chee
the energy
podcast.
boost we need, you know?
Yeah, some new life. Karen, had you seen this movie before?
I had not. This
Wow.
is my first time.
And David, you had not seen this before.
Nope. Certainly not. This is actually the only film of his I hadn't seen apart from his first 2 films, which are obviously very difficult to find.
Humble brag.
His first 2 films, he basically has disowned. They don't really count.
Really?
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
that's really cool to do.
Yeah.
Because
You
I'm
just be like,
embarrassed
no.
by my old stuff.
Oh, you should do that. You should go on IMDb and just like, draw a line through everything you just don't want
On
people
my
to pay
computer
attention
screen.
to. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm,
cool.
mhm.
That sounds like a good plan.
You know what's fun about the current world? Like
Tell
dumb
us.
shit you do when you're like figuring your shit out online
Yeah.
will never disappear.
Yeah.
Right.
Like your fucking bad like jokes and like your early writings and all that shit. If you're any kind of front-facing person,
Mhm.
that shit will be on the internet forever.
Okay.
Even if the site is taken down, there's like fucking Wayback Machine.
Right. So that's good, right?
Right. And then if you're working in the entertainment industry, you get to the point where you actually work at the big leagues and you make stuff that you're proud of. And then that gets taken down from the fucking internet forever. These streaming services just fucking dump it, and then no one can watch the shit that's actually real.
Wait,
Yeah,
Karen,
that's
what's the
true.
thing you're most embarrassed about? Now I want to know.
What am I most? I mean, I am truly embarrassed by everything I've done
Great, sure.
from 3
Cool.
days before today.
Okay, but the last
Yeah.
2 days you've been crushing it.
The
in
last 2
your
days have been
opinion.
amazing.
You nailed
Today
it.
I've been stellar.
Oh,
yeah.
this
You really have.
Yeah, best guest we've ever had.
You did a
Thank
great job
you.
ordering coffee.
Oh,
Incredible.
thank
When
you.
we
I
got
just want the
coffee.
listener to know that I was the guest and I got them coffee.
Yeah.
Yes, I want the listener to
By
know
the
I
way-
paid for the coffee.
Oh, that's true. David
Oh,
paid for the,
okay.
and then I made David carry the coffees. Actually, I guess I didn't really do anything.
Well, and also people kept opening doors for us, and I was
Yes.
sort of like, Karen, you have like Disney princess vibes. Like the animals are going to help us out.
The initiative was good, though.
It
I
was
think you
very
can take credit for the
magical.
initiative.
No,
But
totally.
no, but you got hired on Late Night with Seth Meyers very young, to the point that it was sort of the bit of the show, your recurring segment, the sort of generational divide between you and Seth.
Yeah.
So when you say like there's early stuff you're embarrassed by,
Yeah.
I
I'm
feel like
talking
you had been doing-
preschool.
For sure, right.
that's like I feel like you had like a very
you were on a
fast
sketch team in
ascension.
kindergarten.
Yes.
That, like,
Yeah,
I don't
actually,
know.
that team was pretty good.
Oh,
We
okay,
were-
all right,
I'm
take
still
it
proud
back.
of that
But it
stuff.
was a lot of shock humor.
What was the name?
Oh, the Bad Boys.
Oh, good. The bad boys.
Bad
It does
Boys
kind
of
of
room
sound like
area.
what a kindergarten group would call
Yeah.
themselves. Anyway, yes, no, I've never seen this film before, Griffin.
Okay.
Is that surprising? I mean, it's not.
Here's the thing. I thought this film was more well known than it
I think
is,
this is one of
especially
his least well known films.
in the
yeah.
United States,
Right.
where it never really got put out there in any way. But I also thought this film was a big hit, and then realized it was like a flop for him.
Yes,
Yeah.
this
Coming
film was
off
bit
of a
flop
huge-
for him. Right.
A couple huge hits.
Right.
Um,
And I think the vibe when it came out, people were like, "What's this?
Yeah.
Like, why'd you do this?"
second time invoked in a very short period of time. Weirdly, Beware the Gonzo, which Karen was a aggressively mediocre high school comedy I was in 15 years ago, in which I played the horny best friend.
Wait, what? Wait, what is this? A movie?
It's a movie.
You're in
Yeah.
a movie?
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a movie like according to like the MPAA or whatever, right?
It was
Like
a
it
theatrically
qualified.
released film in the sense that it played for 3 days, one time a day to no people.
Wait, are
And
you
I
a
know this because my
child
mom went
star?
and was like, there was no one else there. No, I
You
was,
were
I was
a young man star.
1920.
This was back in 1920.
Yes, this was back in 1920. I was a
Wow.
child star.
Beware the Gonzo.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What, you don't like this poster?
No, I
I'm-
love this poster.
yeah.
This is
Yeah.
very like Juno vibes.
I'm on the poster, right?
It is Juno vibes. You are on the
my
poster.
my emaciated self. Yeah.
Along with the other misfits. I
Right.
forget who the other
Okay,
misfits
so
are.
I think she's in the photo there, if I'm remembering correctly.
You probably are remembering correctly, but who are you talking about?
Stephanie Y. Hong,
Uh-huh.
who is in the little box.
Mm-hmm.
Big Ezra Miller, big Jesse McCartney, big Zoe Kravitz, tiny box with the other three misfits.
Correct.
Stephanie Hong's the one in the middle.
Yeah.
Who?
You're the misfits.
Yes, we're labeled the misfits.
His character's name was Horny Rob Becker.
That was the bit.
Wow. Okay.
He's horny.
The bit was that I was really horny,
Uh-huh.
Sure.
and I thought this was going to be the breakthrough. I thought, God, this is the last time I'm going to be able to walk down the street without people yelling out "horny Rob." Like I had that
right.
feeling on set where I'm like, this is gonna.
Hey, you're that horny guy, right? What,
Yeah.
Horny Jim? What was your name?
People were like, this is gonna be like a McLovin problem for you.
You
Right,
could
sure.
still do that. You could still make that happen now just by being a big perv.
I could.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just be actually famous for your
Yeah.
horniness.
And introducing
right.
myself as Rob to people.
Yeah.
Okay, what about
Stephanie was a casting assistant.
Okay.
For Susan Shopmaker, who cast that movie, did an incredibly good job. Outside of casting me and finding a lot of people at the early stages of their career.
Sure.
And they were auditioning all these people for the other misfit in the group, and no one was good. And Stephanie would do like the off-camera reading And she was so sort of funny and sullen and dark that they finally were just like, can you just try doing one in front of the camera? And he did it. She did it and she fucking nailed it. And she was in the movie and it's the only acting part she's ever done.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she is from...
She continues to work on movies, but not as an actor.
So she's from South Korea. She's like a big film nerd. And her main job was she would do subtitle translation for Korean films in American-speaking markets. And even when we were working on filming this movie, which none of us were very well paid for, she was like in between takes going to her laptop.
Wow.
And like watching movies and typing them up. I think she moved back to South Korea pretty quickly after filming that. I haven't seen her in a while, but she's a wonderful person. And she was the one who turned me on to this movie.
This movie particular.
At which point, I guess was this comes out in 2006?
That's right.
So we were filming in 2009.
Yeah, it sort of came out in December of 2006 in Korea, and then it had a long festival run around the world in 2007 and 8.
And I was a Park Chan-Wook fan.
Sure, you'd seen Old Boy or something.
I didn't like Old Boy, but I liked the other ones.
All right, fine.
Was the weird thing at the time. But she was like, "Have you seen this fucking thing?" And I was like, "No, that sounds so much like my kind of movie."
Yeah, you like emo movies,
right? And weird, like childlike movies about people having mental breakdowns.
Sure.
But yeah, so she gave me her imported DVD copy of it.
Cool.
And I watched it then, and I just assumed like, oh, this thing must have been a huge hit.
Wow.
Because of the way she spoke of it. And then never realized that it didn't really come out over here and that no one else had seen it.
That's the story.
But I've thought of it very fondly since then. And big ups to Stephanie Hong for turning me on to it.
Well, my experience is I watched this yesterday morning.
I watched this yesterday morning.
Karen.
Wow.
Karen, do you have much of a relationship with this director? You've definitely seen some of his movies because we were talking about which movie you would talk about on this show.
I've seen Decision to Leave.
Sure.
That's the only movie I've seen by him. Because I think everything else he's made
is scary.
Sorry. Yeah, I think everything else he's made is very scary.
Very violent more than anything.
But violence is scary.
You know what? I agree with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
We talked about it. I was like, hey, do you want to come on this show? And you were like, well, I don't like scary movies, at all.
Yeah.
And we were initially talking about you doing a different movie.
Right.
And you said it looks scary. And I said, well, it's tense.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm not sure if I would call it scary, but now that you've said violence is scary, I do think, right.
I also don't like tension.
Sure. Like in your life or just at any point?
At any point. I don't like it in my life, so I don't want it for fun.
Right.
You know?
Right. You don't even like the idea of like sort of like
I don't like suspense.
You don't like suspense.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
What kind of movies do you like?
I love The Parent Trap. And
That's a good movie. We've covered it on this podcast.
We've done that on the podcast.
Yes.
Wait, what? You didn't have me on for The Parent Trap?
Well, it was like 7 years ago, but I mean, we can have you.
It was very
I don't know. We'll just do it again.
Yeah,
By the way,
please do it again.
That's a fucking Blu-ray I don't have because it's part of some exclusive Disney fucking membership program.
Really?
Their version of like the Columbia Record House where you have to
like just get it.
Right. You have to like buy 6 movies a year.
To get The Parent Trap?
On a subscription service. And then some of the things are movies they don't otherwise release.
Surely they have it on like eBay.
I've come close to getting it on eBay. I'm going to pull the trigger soon. That movie's a masterpiece. Anyway, what else is in the Karen Chee canon?
I love The Sound of Music.
Okay.
I love Mary Poppins. I love Paddington 2.
Okay.
Paddington 1, too much suspense. Paddington 2, perfect.
You know what? You're right.
Yeah.
Paddington 1 is heavier on the suspense and villainy.
Nicole Kidman is terrifying.
She's scary.
She is an imperious
is
figure.
Delightful.
It is funny that he goes to prison in the second one.
Yes,
but Nicole Kidman's performance alone makes the first one scarier.
Yeah. She's worse than mass incarceration.
She is, absolutely. She's worse than the prison industrial complex.
Oh my gosh. The prison in the second one, I mean, I know this is horrible to say, is friggin' delightful.
I'd move in tomorrow.
Yes. I mean, obviously, Paddington helps spruce it up and make it nice.
I'd move in post Paddington.
Right, sure.
You would move in post Paddington?
I'm saying the place post Paddington's transformation.
Yes.
When he shows up, it's a little cold.
But I will say when he leaves, he takes all the good people with him. Right? So, like, prison is great because of Brendan
Hugh Grant
Gleeson.
is there.
You're right.
Would that be nice?
Musical numbers.
They're doing musical numbers.
No, you're right. I would love to be in prison with Hugh Grant.
Songs or whatever.
And hopefully they're still using, like, Knuckles' recipes in the kitchen.
Yes,
even if he's not there.
Yeah, look, I like Paddington. I think he's great.
Good guy.
I don't need as much marmalade as he does. if that makes sense. Like that guy is so heavy on marmalade. And I
never
would
thought
love
about
a
this
more
before.
diverse diet.
I would agree. I don't think I need
I need
as
marmalade sandwiches
much
maybe like
marmalade.
once a year.
Yeah.
Like that's not like at the top
even
of my
that,
list.
Even that, once a year, I can skip a couple of years.
You're right. You're not gonna be crying for it.
No.
I went to the jail that jail is based on. It's in Dublin. I went to Dublin with my friend last
Wait,
fall.
okay, so Karen, so you're like a Paddington super.
Okay.
fan.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I went to Dublin because I wanted to visit Ireland. I didn't go
Sure.
solely because they, were inspired by that prison. But I did go to the prison because I heard that's where the movie was filmed.
Yes.
That's not true.
Sure.
They just sort of took pictures of the interiors and made a bigger version of it.
That makes sense.
But
is it an in-use prison or is it like
No,
an
no,
old
no, no.
right? Because it's like
an
a
old,
very, very old building.
yeah, it's like a historical monument now.
Mhm.
But I went and it's like a real, obviously, as all prisons are, like a really devastating history about various famous
Right, good
people.
things didn't happen.
Good things did not happen there.
Yeah.
Right.
And at the end of the
There's a
tour,
great music festival here 20 years ago. There's no like.
Imagine if that were true. They took Woodstock. And
It
turned
really,
into a prison.
I'm looking at it, and it is quite an impressive building.
It
like,
looks
it's sort of crazy
exactly
to
like
look
the
at.
one in the movie.
Right,
And
right.
so she was telling us about all these people who got executed there. And then I was like, hi, did they really film Paddington too? And she was like, no.
She's
Of
like, no.
course not.
Let me tell you about the Easter Rising, and you're like, but where was the marmalade cooked?
Where was the bear? Which cell was the bear held in?
Show me where the bear slept.
I'm banned from the country of Ireland.
Well, not knowing if you had seen this before, it felt like the kind of movie that would be in your wheelhouse, because this is an odd case of like, most of his films are very intense.
Yeah.
This movie is about intense things,
Yeah.
but it's through the veneer of sort of a children's fantasy comedy.
I'm
It
a
does have
cyborg,
some
but that's
violence.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does have violence.
I think the thing, so I did watch the movie. The movie is unsettling
Yes.
intentionally.
Yes.
I don't like feeling unsettled.
Interesting.
I love feeling so comfortable. So that was the one thing where I was like, I can tell this is a great film.
Uh-huh.
Sure.
And everything he wants to do, he's pulling off so well, including like every shot I thought was like really well thought through. Like every single thing kind of like crackles with this electricity.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I was like, I just don't want to be electrified. in
You
this
don't want
moment.
no, you don't want to plug yourself into anything.
No,
me neither.
nice reference.
You don't want to make your big toe glow?
That's
I
kind
will
of
say
fun.
a
Glowing
thing-
toes is fun.
The glowing toes was cool. It felt very like Thanos. The colors.
That's true. They are different colors.
She's got the infinity foot.
Yes, this is his version of a whimsical film, but it is
Right.
quite strange and a little devastating
Yeah.
and kind of sad, and honestly very good.
I had thought this movie was like a fucking victory lap after Old Boy.
It
That
is
this
so
was
funny
like,
to me that you're like, this is the first time learning that this was not the most successful
I
film
truly-
ever made.
and I think it was just like because Stephanie was like so exuberant about it, but I think also knew like we have similar brains. You're probably gonna fucking love this.
Yeah,
thing.
and it is a very Griffey movie, especially
Absolutely.
like a younger Griff.
Right.
Yeah,
This
right,
is
right.
my see. I like my dream movie. I'm not saying this is my favorite movie of all time, but this is basically my perfect formula for a movie.
Okay, wait.
Which
what
is
a
like the
Griffey
tone
movie?
and style of a Paddington with
Okay.
like really fucked up shit happening underneath it.
Oh my god. Okay, so you're
Yeah,
saying
I like the psychologically unsettling subject matter done in this style, maybe, is like,
and by the style you mean like bright poppy
yeah.
energy,
Right.
upbeat.
It's colorful, kind of. Yeah.
I think I've said before, like children's movies made for adults.
Ah, okay.
Movies where the subject matter is perhaps very adult mature in some way or another, or psychologically intense or probing, but it has the sort of style and the logic of a kid's movie.
I see. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So
We'll
it's
never
I
watch a
wouldn't say
movie
like
together.
all of my favorite movies fall into that category, but when I see a movie like that, I'm like, that shit's for me.
Mm-hmm.
Had you seen it since?
I had not. I had not seen it since because
But
it's hard
it-
to see
it
here.
Sat well with you.
Yes, it sat really well with me. I hadn't seen it in almost 15 years. I didn't remember all of it, but there's certainly stuff that had really stuck in my mind.
Sure.
But I think just because, like, Stephanie was constantly telling me about the fucking South Korean film industry and who her idols were, who she wanted to work with and all this stuff. And she's like, have you seen the new movie by the Old Boy guy? And I liked Old Boy less than most people, but I knew he was like the big director in that moment, right? And she hands
Sure.
this to me, and I think I just assumed, oh, this must have been a fucking home run. This was
Right.
like the inception to his Dark Knight, This is like he follows up his fucking huge hit with a blank check that like clears even more. And instead, not only was it kind of a flop, but they even basically like pulled it from theaters prematurely to like mitigate the damage of how poorly it was performing.
Right.
And the reviews were all like, what the fuck is this?
What is this?
Yeah.
Right.
I think
And
it was sort of like, why are you outside of your lane, buddy?
right. And also, like, why are these fucking things happening in a comedy?
Mm.
Why is this movie so cartoonish
Mm.
and including things that are this unsettling? It seems to be the common response to this film.
Hi, it's Alex Barron, editor for Blank Check. I have been asked to read the following statement from the multidisciplinary artist known as Producer Ben. Congratulations, you are invited. Blank Check will be presenting a very special live event on Wednesday, September 13th at 8 p.m. at the Bell House in Brooklyn, New York. It's the world premiere of the 2024 collection of Congratulations, the clothing and lifestyle brand created by Ben Hosley. Expect this New York Fashion Week show to launch you into the twisted, dripping wet mind of one of podcasting's strangest dudes. Never before has anyone ever been brave enough to create a collection quite like this. It's so much more than just dirt and shit. So, if you want to join the Blank Check crew and see live performances from friends of the show and be fucking cool and attend a runway show that's technically taking place on the final day of New York Fashion Week, then follow the link in the description and get your tickets. The public sale will start on Monday, August 7th at 12 p.m. Eastern. Critics are already saying it's good and that they like Ben and think his new earring is hot. Hope to see you there. I'm Ben Hosley and I approve this message. End of transmission.
Let me give you some context, Karen.
Okay.
We have a researcher.
Give me some fucking context, too.
You can listen if you want. I'm talking to Karen. Park Chan-Wook had made 3 very dark films in a row. His Vengeance Trilogy. Somewhat unofficial, that trilogy, right? Like the Americans kind of dub it a trilogy.
Right. He'd done JSA and the 3 Vengeance at this point. Right.
But he'd been making these very dark films.
Yeah.
And he has a 12-year-old daughter at the time.
Okay.
As he's coming out of this.
Sure.
Out of the Vengeance movie. So he wants to make a movie that's more geared towards her.
Especially after the Vengeance trilogy, I think he's in a sort of like Tarantino-esque position where they're like, you got your own fucking world. You got these weird ass, intense, violent movies that people eat up. Do your thing, right? Like he had almost become his own genre.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Wait, so he made this movie so that it would be viewed by a 12-year-old girl?
Well, his daughter.
Okay.
So I think his daughter probably, has more of a sort of twisted sensibility, perhaps.
Sure.
Apparently, she had been banned from seeing Old Boy.
Well, his daughter, of course, comes from the twisted sperm of Park Chan-Wook.
Right. But she'd been banned from seeing Old Boy, but apparently she had seen Lady Vengeance 3 times, maybe against his wishes or not, but like she was obviously getting into it.
Wow.
You know who I wouldn't want to watch Old Boy with? My daughter.
So, well, basically, this is his quote, but, if you'd done, 3 feature films over 5 years, which are very dark and violent and gloomy, you'd probably want to change as well. The main reason is the fact that I wanted to make a film for my daughter to see. When she was very young, a baby, it didn't really matter. Good point.
Mm-hmm.
When she was a baby, it didn't matter what she was watching.
Nothing matters when you're a baby.
No.
Yeah.
So true.
Fucking bullshit.
But I've been away a lot, shooting films in different locations, so it's kind of a present to her so she can see and watch and enjoy it. So yes, he absolutely made this film for her.
Wow.
But he says it was not an entirely successful effort, and I wanted to make something she could enjoy with her friends, but I think she liked Pirates of the Caribbean more. Is his line.
And you know what? That is a great movie.
There you
Yeah.
go. That's another Karen movie.
No, but I have seen it's one of my brother's movies, I guess. So I watched it with him.
Sure. Is your brother older or younger?
He's older.
So you had like a brother watching kind of the more.
Yeah, my brother watched a lot of cool stuff,
Right.
and then I was like, "Yeah, I like this too," but I would never watch it on my own.
Right. And then there is
Yeah.
peril in Pirates of the Caribbean.
There is.
And some tension.
Unsettling situation.
I think I also don't
Skeletons?
like skulls. Yeah, that's the thing. Is,
Oh. You don't like skulls? I can't believe you made it through that movie.
I know. I
The
watched
poster of the movie has a skull on
so
it. Karen.
many.
Fucking Skull and Crossbones is the logo.
And you know what? That's why National Treasure 2 is better than National Treasure 1 is no skulls.
Wow.
hmm
We did those recently.
I can't believe you're inviting me for the
Identifying
wrong
all the
movies.
you like.
I'm going to send you a full list of movies I like, and you'll find another one on there.
Yeah,
Sure.
you come
Yeah.
back on.
Yeah.
100%.
I'm so
all right.
excited.
Beyond wanting to make a film for his daughter, which he, I think, did a bit of an odd job at.
funny,
I think
like-
he's just wants to avoid being pigeonholed as like the one type
Yeah.
of
That's
movie.
great.
You know,
That's a
like
good
the
move.
revenge thriller
It's a
kind
good
of guy.
instinct. No,
Mhm.
I just the only other example that immediately comes to mind of what you're talking about is like Pete Docter being like, I made Inside Out to try to understand my daughter.
Mm.
Like she hit puberty and I was having a hard time relating to her, and it was sort of this act of like outreach and empathy. And then Park Chan-Wook does the same thing, and this is what he fucking makes.
Yeah. I didn't know
Yeah.
that's why Inside Out was made. That's great.
Really? That's why Inside Out was made?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was like, my daughter like turned 12 and she started being really sad. And I was like trying to understand what was going on in her mind. And then out of that came the movie.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. All parents should do that.
Every parent should make a movie
Yeah.
when their
Pixar
kid
movie.
is at their saddest.
Oh, Toy Story is a movie I like. Have you done this?
Oh, yeah.
You have?
Toy Story 2 is my favorite movie of all time.
Oh, I like Toy Story 1 more than 2.
Interesting.
hmm
But Toy Story, I think, is like what I like about Toy Story. It falls in this category.
Yes,
Even
I
though they're
know what you
obviously actually presented as children's movies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like that all the toys in Toy Story talk like they're adults.
Yes.
And they're dealing with like overwhelming existential
Yes.
concepts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
That it really is just like a bunch of adults sitting around being like, why am I alive?
I feel like that's true for every Pixar movie. Sorry, I'm
Yes.
really derailing the
No, no, no.
context part of this
care.
episode.
Whatever. We're having fun. Oh,
But
back to context.
JJ, our researcher,
Yeah.
did text me in the middle of the night
Oh,
to say,
great.
do you know that Park Chan-Wook cites Toy Story as his biggest influence on I'm a Cyborg? But that's
No.
okay.
Okay. Well, let's see them. Let's see
Not
when
to
I
jump
get that.
ahead
No,
in the
I mean,
dossier.
okay. Let's see. He compares this film to Junior Bonner,
Mm.
a Sam Peckinpah movie that is also like, outside of his usual
Okay.
thing,
Mhm.
right? He's sort of saying like, it's a gentle, almost violence-free, slightly relaxed movie. Not true. This film has multiple scenes of violence.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
So, but to Park, I think he's like, to director Park, this is a almost violence.
I know. But you're like, this movie has
Machine
multiple
gun.
mass shootings.
Yeah.
Right. Fantasy,
Fantasy.
but not.
But they go on for a long time
They
and
do.
they're bloody.
They are.
Yeah.
So he was sort of thinking like, okay, this is the end of the first part of my career. My films are becoming more feminine. There's more hope, he says. The
Mhm.
themes of love and hope have become more prominent. And he was developing Thirst at the same time as this movie.
Okay.
So clearly he was thinking of like this is a movie he makes later, Karen. Two like sort of ways to go in.
hmm
And he goes for this one and Thirst gets like backburnered. So he could
Okay.
have made Thirst next. All right.
Thirst is a vampire movie.
Okay.
Yes,
cool.
kind of a fun movie.
Yeah.
It's goofy, but
Yeah.
it's more dramatic.
Dark comedy.
Yes,
kind
great,
of, yeah.
incredible movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so but for the Toy Story thing,
Mhm.
so he starts thinking about this movie because two images come to his mind. He says
Mhm.
the first is he was in a car during post production in Old Boy, and he thought of group therapy in a mental institute. And he imagined what would it be like if there were no medical staff there, if everyone was amongst themselves, patients amongst themselves. It's almost like in Toy Story when the toys come to life when there are no humans around.
Mhm.
I imagine if there's no medical staff, the patients might have more lively conversation. That's the beginning of my imagination.
Okay. Yep. That's what I'm getting at big Andy's room vibes from this movie.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm picking
yeah.
up on it.
Also, Sid's room. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sure, Sid's room, because they're all a little funny.
Yeah.
They're all a little funky.
Mhm.
But without making the connection, I was clocking while watching this. Like, I like that every patient has their own game, that they all have their own
Yeah.
character game in the same way as Toy Story, where you're like,
Mm.
everyone's got their thing.
Mhm.
Their thing is somehow like in contrast with how they look, what type of toy they are,
Mhm.
but everyone's got their own internal comedic game.
So that's all true.
Mhm.
The other thing he thinks about is about a cyborg in a girl uniform, is how he puts it.
Cool.
With guns in her fingers,
Right.
and
My
bullets coming out of her
Dream
mouth.
woman?
And so he starts to initially think of a movie about like, okay, what if I made a movie about an actual robot girl? And then he's like, no. How about I make a movie about a girl who thinks she's a robot girl? Like I'll combine these two ideas, right? The cyborg girl gets to go into the psych ward, and instead that's just her delusion that she thinks she's a robot girl. Which is what this movie is about. It's about a girl who thinks she's a robot, doesn't need to eat food, and instead just needs to lick batteries.
Correct.
That's
and it's
okay.
It's okay.
Yes, but
The
it
movie
is
makes
doing
it very
some
clear.
damage to her health, her physical health,
Sure.
her ability to be alive.
Yes. The film starts with the protagonist's mother talking to a doctor as she is about to admit her daughter into this institution.
Yes.
And it is after a suicide attempt.
Or what they think is a suicide
Right.
attempt.
But actually she was just trying to plug in some wires to her
Correct.
wrist.
So she could live longer.
Correct.
Right, or recharge her
presumably.
batteries.
She slit
or
open her
whatever.
wrist and put wires inside there and electrocuted herself because she was trying to recharge.
Right.
Mhm.
And her mother is so sort of oddly blasé about everything, dismissive of any sort of answers that they try to offer up to her. Just kind of apathetic in general.
Says she only eats turnips, or is it the mother who only eats turnips?
I
There's
think
someone
the
who only eats
mother's-
turnips.
The mother's
Yes.
mother only ate radishes.
That's what it was, right? She's
Right.
sort of
Yeah.
radishes. That's what it
Radish.
is.
Yeah.
She's recalling, right, that her own mother also has her own set of.
The character that freaked me out the most was this mom, though.
The
Is
mom.
when she's talking, I was like, I hate this.
Oh, she's a nightmare
Weird.
person.
Right.
Nightmare
Yeah.
person.
Yes.
Yeah.
She seems to be into awful cut of meat, like tongue, and like eats like she's on the phone, and I feel like that's a recurring thing of her having this.
Keeps ordering, right?
She's ordering like intestines.
Right,
So
she
when
has,
they
like, groin
see
and
like
bladder.
her-
Yeah.
yeah, when
Womb.
they show part of
yes, right. She eats womb.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize it was womb.
She says womb at one point. She's like listing, I guess, on the phone with her butcher.
It was really weird because I feel like everyone is talking about how the main character is a robot or a cyborg, and I was like, the mom is weirder. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
the mom is freaky.
But I think all this is intentional. And you start the
For
movie
sure.
out with like just this kind of simple two-person conversation with
Yeah.
flashbacks. As the doctor, I mean, is she the head of the institute, or
Yeah,
is she just
sure.
admitting doctor, whatever, is sort of interviewing the mother, trying to get a sense of what's going on. And the mother's like distracted, kind of dismissive of everything. But you're getting the sense that, right, the mom's pretty checked out. The grandmother really raised this girl.
Yes.
The grandmother had her own mental illness.
Yes, and
That-
had a lot of radishes.
Right. Ate a lot of rashes.
I like radishes.
Thought that she was a rat or a
Yes.
mouse.
A rodent,
Yes.
a radish-eating creature.
Right. She thought he was a radish eating rodent. And at some point, she was just taken away.
Yeah.
It was sort of ignored her behavior until the point where they also institutionalized her, took her away.
The white coats,
Right.
taken
And that
away.
feels like obviously outside of some, genetic disposition for neuroatypical behavior that exists in this family. That was also this sort of traumatic event that the young girl had never gotten over, and that has sort of broken her sense of reality since then.
Right.
Because they even ask, like, is there any history of pretending to be something you're not in your family?
Right.
And the mother's kind of dismissive of the fact that her mother fully identified as a rodent.
yeah.
Like, I don't think that has anything to do with anything. but
she
yeah,
is
so
a bit of a disconnected person. the
We're
mother.
hearing these two characters talk about our lead character for several minutes before we actually meet her.
Right.
And just getting these cutaways to little glimpses of her suicide attempt, her behavior, all this sort of stuff.
Yes. So the way Park puts it is, he wants the audience to think, what is the purpose of existence?
Mhm.
And is life really necessary? Very nice comedies, nice themes for a movie for a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And so he says with the main character here, she was wondering why she was born. She wants to know what she should do to become a valuable being. And when you see a mass-produced product, they have clear, obvious purposes. So she starts to want to be a machine because machines have purpose and manuals, and like there's a reason for them to exist. That is his thinking behind this sort of delusion.
I like
Sort of
that.
a funny way of thinking about it.
That
Yes.
makes a lot of sense because I feel like that scene in the beginning where she's like in the factory line of people working.
Yes.
You're like, oh, instead of working to create something, she's just trying to become whatever it is they
Yeah.
are making. I was like, that makes sense.
Right.
If you're in that setting for that.
And her suicide attempt,
nobody cares
no one pays
because
attention.
they're robots working.
Right.
Yeah.
But it happens on the factory line.
yeah.
Like
yeah,
they're
yeah.
building electronics.
Mhm.
Yep.
behaving sort of robotically.
Yep.
And then she does this absurd action that for her is not a cry for help, is not a self-destructive act.
It was obviously very alarming.
Yes.
But no, she does it very, very calmly and then like wraps up her wrist with tape.
Yes.
And is like, good job done.
Because she's hearing the broadcast.
Correct.
Mhm.
She's getting like
Who's
the sort
instructing
of
her
Yes.
to
from
do
the
these.
device that she's constructing, right? It's like speaking to her. Yeah.
I believe so.
But her mother is so undramatic about all this. It's really just kind of like, so you have her under control, right? I don't have to worry about this anymore.
Right.
She's like not panicked or alarmed by any of this, other than just like, well, this clearly needs to be outsourced to someone else. This is someone else's problem.
Yes. So she is institutionalized, and she is alongside a boy who is played by the Korean entertainer Rain, who I feel like is a very famous person at this point in time,
He's
right?
very famous.
Does he continue to be very famous?
Well, now everybody just knows who he is.
Yes.
He's like on a bunch of music shows, I guess, and stuff in Korea.
Mhm.
He's not currently like, I mean, I feel like BTS is obviously so much bigger,
Sure.
but everybody
Become the
knows who
kings,
he
right.
is. Yeah.
But I feel like because like Rain is also in Speed Racer, which is
Yes.
made a couple years after this,
Right.
and I feel like he was very, very hot stuff in the 2000s.
I didn't know who he was when I first saw this. And so rewatching it, I was taken aback that, oh, fuck, that's Rain.
Right.
Because, I saw him in Speed Racer a couple years later, and then Ninja Assassin,
Yeah,
a
he's
movie
in
that
Ninja Assassin,
definitely
right.
exists, but he's the lead of that. But then also there were like the years where he was a running meme on the Colbert Report.
Yes.
Colbert had like a
what?
running bit
oh my
about
God,
Rain.
I forgot about
Yeah.
that. Rain was on his show.
Yes.
And Colbert like sang a Korean pop song, right?
And this
in
was, like,
response to
What was
Rain
the
or
connection?
something?
Like, why
I
did
don't
that begin?
remember
I don't
why
remember
it started.
either.
I do feel like Colbert was very like into like sort of those sort of internet movements, like
Yeah.
or like tapping into other types of culture.
But this was also like way before, like now we were talking about in our first episode how much like Korean pop culture feels like it is influencing the world now.
yes,
This was
right.
way before that.
This
Yes.
is way before that.
Yeah,
And
I
it was
almost
odd that he just sort of
wonder-
latched onto Rain.
It might have just been because it was like a country that at that point was culturally kind of irrelevant to the US,
Mhm.
right? And then like a
Only
random
just
pop
gaining
star.
relevance,
Yeah, so
right.
it kind of was like, oh, here's a fun running joke I could do. You know what I mean?
100%. Right.
and
Like
that
it's a
Rain-
niche thing at this time.
Because Colbert also did a thing with like a Swedish pop group, right? At one point.
This is what I was trying to remember. I definitely remember him trying to get his like a Hungarian bridge named after him.
Yeah.
Right.
Because there was like some Hungarian town that was like doing an online poll for a bridge.
Mhm.
And he was like, it was that thing where he was clearly like, I have a small audience, but like if I can motivate them to do,
Yeah,
like if I
yeah.
could find a
Right.
thing that's sort of on that level, I could probably succeed.
Right, small but very devoted.
He was such a
following.
rascal back then, which is
He
sort of funny to think about
was,
because now he's kind of like this sort of like compassionate, intelligent, kind of like grand old man of
Right.
late night,
He went from like a fun rascal to like a gentle dad, like
Yeah,
a soccer
very gentle
The
dad.
Yeah.
gentlest dad.
right.
But that was also, it felt like the bit, which is even odder for the character, Stephen Colbert, that he was still playing at that time.
Yes, yeah,
That's-
yeah.
Was that he just like fucking
That's
loved
true.
Rain.
A right-wing Fox News host.
Right.
Yeah.
But the bit was that he was like, this guy is magnetic.
Wow.
Right.
Right? That he was sort of like a Rain super fan.
Mm.
But he would just invoke him a lot. They'd play clips of anything Rain was doing. And it must have been right after this. Is this sort of like his peak? This movie
I don't know.
Rain's peak?
in popularity?
No.
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 It continues to.
I think his music popularity fully overshadows. I think a lot of
Yes.
people don't think
I'm
of
sorry,
him as a
not
movie
not his
star.
career peak. I'm saying like it's 2006 when he's at the top of the mountain.
Oh, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. I could see that.
It seems like whatever the late two, but as you say, he's still popular.
He still trickles.
I think he's like known now. I don't know if anybody would have like a poster of him on his like college on their
No, 'cause
college.
he's
He's
like
an
40
elder
years old
statesman.
now,
right,
right?
Yeah.
He's like
Um,
fucking Blake Shelton on The Voice or whatever.
I do
he
like-
is fucking Blake Shelton.
He's having sex with Blake Shelton on The Voice.
and we're happy for both of
Because
them.
NBC is just like, I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll try anything.
It's a
at this
fucking
point
writer's strike.
on simulated sex between different countries'
Yes.
music stars.
And they're in the chair and the chair spins around. They don't
This
have
is
to
like
say
some
anything.
horrible AI thing that is
Right,
definitely
exactly.
going to
The
happen.
machine told us to do this.
Yeah.
We have to pay any price. So Rain is in this film, and that's nice for him.
And that's
His
okay.
character is is in search of meaning, right? He is empty
Yes.
inside. He thinks he may become nothing.
Antisocial behavior, feels
Just
disconnected from everything.
sociopathy,
Yes.
right, yeah.
Yes, he basically gets joy from
He loves to
fucking
steal.
He loves stealing. He
Yeah.
loves fucking with everyone else. Right? I mean, he's sort of constantly like teeing them up
Yeah.
for his own amusement.
Yeah, right. He's a bit of a rascal as well.
Yes. He's sort of the Stephen Colbert of
for the mid 2000s.
of the institution. Stephen Colbert in quotes.
Park's, take is sort of teenager always asking, why do I exist?
Right.
And so this is what he's sort of trying to get at here.
Yeah.
He never made another movie about teenagers. This is like a very unusual little entry in his filmography.
There was no other film in his filmography like this. And it's recognizably one of his films. I think it shares themes and stuff, but tonally and stylistically, this is so different.
Are they supposed to be teens?
I think it's supposed to be like late teens, but that's actually a good question because they are probably.
I assume they were adults because the other people in the
Yeah.
institution are
I
adults.
read them as like early 20s.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, you know what? I'm reading his quotes. I don't know what to tell you.
He's trying to relate to his daughter.
Yeah.
The other thing that comes out later, I guess somewhere around the middle of the movie, is that she, when she was born prematurely and was put in an incubator and hooked up to all these wires
Sure.
to be kept
It's very
alive.
scary.
Right, which ties to this thing of like the search for meaning. What am I supposed to be doing? Why am I alive? Right? A, she like envies robots that are built for a specific purpose and don't have to question these things. But B, she like has these sort of like suppressed memories of being kept alive by machinery.
Right.
You know, that like in a world without technology.
It's her origin story.
Right. In a world without technology, if she had been born 2,000 years earlier, she would have died.
It's possible.
I think about that
Technology
a lot.
kept her alive and she feels kind of
You think about
connected to
this?
I think about that because I have really bad eyesight.
Yeah.
Do you?
I do.
Are you wearing contact
I
lenses right now?
am. Yeah.
It'd be
thank
funnier if you were just like, and I just roll with it.
Yeah. But I do feel like if you were a girl, right, and you were born with really bad eyesight, nobody's going to try and get you glasses unless you're
You
like
mean
the
like in like the 10th
aristocracy.
century. They just kind of be
I
like,
feel
all right.
anytime before the 18th century, they would not have gotten glasses for women unless you were the queen.
right.
Mhm.
Because what are you gonna do? You're not reading. You're not. But then I would be
No.
attacked and run over by like a wagon.
Well,
what
you would
I
definitely have to learn good wagon dodging skills. That would have to be very early. Yes.
Yeah.
I have like made this joke several times before on the podcast, and it's not even really a joke, but that my continued existence is an affront to the notion of survival of the fittest.
Right. Darwin is spinning in his grave.
Right.
At the
That
idea
it's just
of
like
you
we built a modern
succeeding.
society that allows me to stay alive.
This is
Yeah.
bad. It's bad for humanity.
Because
right?
nature should be destroying me at all times, and it tries its hardest. It still does,
Yeah.
even in urban environments.
Totally.
Right. But yes, she's like very much a product of a culture that is able to keep her alive.
Karen, did you have
Right.
glasses when you were very small?
When I
Like, when did you get glasses?
in third grade.
That's a normal time to get glasses. I feel
Yeah,
like.
I
It's
think
I feel like it
so.
really sucks when you have to get them in like kindergarten or something.
Oh
Mm.
yeah, then you're just like a dweeb from the get
You
go.
got the little rubber glasses.
Wait,
like
those
you
are
can't-
so cute.
I know.
though.
The new kids' glasses are cute now.
They're
I
cute
love
now.
baby
I think
kid
they used to really
glasses.
suck. Yeah.
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 When did you make the contact switch?
Oh yeah.
I made the contact switch. I want to say 8th grade, and
Wow,
I think
okay,
it's
early.
because pretty early.
Yeah.
My eyes started getting so bad
Sure.
that I'm nearsighted. So when I wear glasses, the lens was so thick, and also I would just look like there was an indent on either side of my face. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? 'Cause-
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so then I was like, I don't want to be seen like this,
Sure.
and I
Sure.
switched contacts.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you
And
must have very intense contacts.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I don't know. Do they have to be thick? Does this
no,
matter?
I
No,
don't
guess
think
not.
so.
Right.
But
You don't
that
have
would
to
be
wear
amazing
Coke
if-
bottle contacts.
Yeah, can you imagine? I like can't blink.
Your contacts stick out like 5 inches outside
know.
of your.
I
This
guess
is
they
so
are
much better
on
than
your eye.
glasses.
They are on top
Right.
of your eye,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they don't have to be quite as crazy. But I have like a very close friend who is legally blind without her glasses. Like she's got eyesight that bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
But anyway, and her glasses are very thick, obviously.
Mm.
All right.
THICC, right?
They are.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Mhm,
They got
mhm.
a lot of junk in the trunk.
Voluptuous glasses.
Juicy glasses.
Yeah, they're juicy as hell.
That glass.
Park first. That glass is pretty good.
10
Am I
comedy
going to get
points.
invited back to the
Absolutely.
pod?
Karen, anytime you
Yes.
want to come,
You're being put on the
pod.
masthead now.
Park the first to admit this is not a realistic portrayal of mental health or mental health institutions. the cast of the ensemble behind the main two characters. He's like, none of this is based on any like actual medical thought.
No.
I'm just taking traits and exaggerating them.
He doesn't feel like he did research.
Wait, but something I will say, because I thought that too in the beginning, and then I was like, wait, this is awesome, is that they were somehow, he was able to show them in a way that they were more normal than the people who would otherwise be considered not crazy. Do you know what I mean?
That's why I think the fucking movie opening with the mom is so important.
Yes,
Right.
so
Yes. It's like this person would never be institutionalized, but she's a nightmare.
She's actually
she's a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
And everybody else in the institution is so sincere.
Right.
And then the doctors are also weird. Like, yeah.
But there's things like, it's like the person who is too polite.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
That was
ideas like that. Right?
legitimately such an Asian idea. I thought I was watching it like, that's so funny. That's like two Korean dads trying to pay the check.
I do. Park says he would call psychiatrists and be like, would this be possible? Like,
What's your
someone
best
who is
material?
excessively polite?
Give me your funniest patients.
Someone who like is so polite that he can't walk forward, so he can only walk backwards. And he said they would always just kind of be like, I mean, no, but I suppose in theory such a thing could
He'd be
happen.
like, that's all I wanted to
And he'd
hear.
be like, great. Yeah, like instead he's just like, you know, forget medical reports. I just want to sort of like exaggerate how the human mind works.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this movie has a really interesting approach to reality, in that it doesn't that often do the thing where you're in her fantasy sequence and then you cut out and see the reality of what's going on.
Right.
It will sort of stay in her fantasy and then just go to the next scene.
Right.
Right. So when there are things like these incredible acts of violence and you're watching 10 minutes of like a mass shooting, you're kind of conditioned to, like, from most movies you've seen like this, be like, and then they're going to cut out and she's standing in a room making noises with her mouth and nothing's happening.
Right.
Right? Or you fear like, are they going to cut out and she actually has a gun and she's shooting people for real?
Right.
What is happening actually tangibly in this real world? And instead it's just like, that's the scene. You're kind of like going in and out of her headspace, but they're not delineating that much.
I think it's nice that there is no authority figure, really. Like, technically, the doctors should be authority figures, but they don't seem to really have any power over
No, this
them.
is not really like a One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest thing of
Right,
like,
right,
oh,
that's
there's
what I
this
was thinking
terrifying like matron who they're all like, whatever, being
Yeah.
bossed around.
No, and
by.
your introduction to the place and the cast of characters is all from this woman pretending to be.
Right, which was such
I
an
know.
incredible move.
Right.
Yeah.
You spend 5 minutes with her rolling her around and you're like, got it. I get every character in their game. And then a real nurse comes by and she's like, take the fucking jacket off. I told you not to do this. And then you're just like, so I don't know what anything is now.
Yeah.
But it does, like, it feels like it's like the Muppet Show. Like, no one here is normal.
Right, and it kind of like the Muppet Show because everybody has a game.
Yes.
It feels consistently grounded.
Right.
Yeah.
But in the way that where you're like, well, Kermit's the straight man who's complaining about all these Muppets being crazy. But he's also a fucking Muppet. Like,
Yeah.
Kermit, like, check yourself.
I
you know?
love Kermit.
He's so
He should have
good.
been in this movie.
He should have been. This is fucking the recast a movie with the Muppets and one human actor.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
pretty easy. I mean, one of them is wearing a bunny mask for half the movie already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I gonna
I
say?
just think
Oh, you
the-
like
the
Kermit?
way
Kermit's cool.
Kermit
Yes.
rules.
Yeah.
Is he your top Muppet?
Is he my top Muppet? Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Wow.
I think I wave like Kermit, like a.
Like you
Oh,
sort
you
of have
do.
like a slightly
Yeah.
floppy
Yeah.
kind of.
I really just sort of. I'm like tight at the elbow, loose at the wrist, and then I go ham.
See, all my favorite Muppets now are Sesame Street Muppets because that's like I spend all my
Oh.
time with Sesame Street, as you know.
And then you're
Who
gonna
is your favorite Muppet?
Who's my favorite Muppet?
Grover?
Grover was my favorite Muppet as a kid.
Yeah.
I think Cookie Monster is my favorite Muppet.
Oh, wait, I changed my mind. I think it's Ernie.
Well, Ernie's great.
I love
Yeah,
Ernie.
He's a little stinker though.
See, David gets annoyed
I like Bert.
by Ernie, and he likes Bert because I'm Ernie and he's Bert.
Right.
Oh,
But
wow, wow.
they keep showing this sketch that I've brought up multiple times in this
Yeah.
podcast where Ernie is playing his trumpet as they are trying to go to bed.
Right, and that is funny.
And Ernie's like, I have to play my trumpet to go to bed. And Bert's like, it's loud. I want to go to bed.
David was
Yeah.
like ranting and raving about it. And he's like, that's psychotic behavior. And I'm like, David, that's a good bit.
That's a funny bit.
Uh,
David, get with the program.
Big bird energy over
Yeah.
here.
My daughter doesn't really like Bert. I think they're too like normal for her. Like, it's like, who are these like regular people?
They are like just couples I know.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like
One
Cookie
quiet, one
Monster,
loud.
she's like, that guy eats cookies.
Yeah,
Like, you know, like that guy has a game.
Promise of the premise.
Right,
He's fulfilling.
Yeah. But she's fiercely loyal to Abby. Elmo's in the dirt right now.
No.
Abby is the queen to her now.
Gethard has such a good fucking chunk about Elmo and his new
I'm very
special,
excited to hear
his
that.
hour that I guess is coming out soon.
Yes.
But
his
he just has
fatherhood.
basically a manifesto on Elmo being the single greatest fictional character in history that is really convincing.
Interesting. I certainly have seen a lot of Elmo in recent year.
Yeah.
In recent year.
Kermit is, I forget whose point this is that I'm stealing now, but it's like he is the only like main normal character in quotes in like a thing where saying he's your favorite is not a boring choice.
Oh.
You know?
Yes, it's not like my favorite superhero, Superman.
Right, or like Mickey Mouse or whatever. Where you're like, no one fucking likes Mickey Mouse.
Right.
Kermit is
we
cool.
hate him.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
He's a problem.
Kermit for being the center, the everyman, the sort of balanced character is in and of himself interesting, funny, engaging.
Yeah, do you think it's because he's a frog?
I do like
really
frogs.
Good question.
My favorite animal
Really?
is the frog.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't want to sit next to this guy while he's watching Princess and the Frog. Getting turned.
Freaking out. Don't turn into a prince. Stay
Basically.
frog.
Yeah, you should both stay frogs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Animal.
What?
Yeah, Ben likes animal.
You like Animal, the Muppet Animal,
Yes.
the drummer guy.
He's the best.
He's like, Animal.
He's got great energy.
Yeah.
He does. He's got plenty of energy.
David,
Yes.
this episode is brought to you by Mubi.
Yeah, okay.
We know them.
They're around.
You thinking same old, same old?
Oh, streaming
Nope.
service. What?
They're doing something new this time.
They dropping something?
They're presenting a new film entitled Passages. It's the latest
Yes.
from Ira Sachs, one of the great American directors.
Love is Strange.
Yeah.
Keep the Lights On.
Yeah.
Little Men. Was
Yes.
that, Frankie? With
Yes.
Isabelle Huppert.
Yes. It's a fresh, sexy, and brutally funny take on messy modern relationships premiered at this year's Sundance Film Festival.
I
Too
saw
bad
it
neither of us
there.
have seen it. What?
I saw Passages.
Oh,
It's fantastic. You got Franz Rogowski, the cutest little guy in the world.
Yes.
You might know him
the
from
Petzold
Transit.
movies. Yes. Undine.
It's got Ben Whishaw,
Yeah.
king of cinema.
Paddington Bear much?
Absolutely. And it's got the
And you're going to see him, Paddington Bear, in this movie.
you sure. And it's got the wonderful French actress Adele Exarchopoulos,
Yes.
who and it's this sort of naughty and much befitting Irish Sachs.
Yeah.
Naughty, complex tale of romance and sex and
You're
relationships.
saying Knotty.
Exactly.
But
it's a bit naughty as well.
But this is one of the easy. I think one of the things that makes Ira Sachs stand out in the current American independent landscape. He is one of the few people who I think really deals with sexuality in a very sensitive, sensual,
grown-up way. Yes.
grown-up way. Yes.
I completely agree. It's a seductive drama set in Paris. It's about a gay couple, Franz Rogowski and Ben Whishaw, whose marriage is thrown into crisis when Thomas, Franz's character, begins a passionate affair with Agathe, a young woman he meets after completing a film.
Paddington Bear, I'm realizing is the
basically
way I
about-
should have worded it. That's a cleaner version of the joke. Go on.
Franz just being the most both alluring and frustrating hottie who's just a wrecking ball through people's lives, but you kind of understand it. And it's a really great performance from everybody, honestly. It rules. It's opening only in theaters in New York and LA on August 4th, expanding to cities nationwide throughout August. You can visit mubi.com/passages to see showtimes, get tickets. That's mubi.com/passages. Okay, these two young actors. Park is thinking he's going to have fun, cheerful, energetic young actors.
Okay.
Instead, he says they are very serious and thoughtful. He uses a word that I cannot pronounce. I don't know, Karen, if you know that.
Is it an English word?
No, it's a Korean word. He uses this word.
Do you want me to look at it?
Yeah, come look at this
Okay.
word. Which he says means a young person who behaves like an old person. I mean, obviously, this is the.
Energony. I'm an energony. I've been called this.
I'm so glad that you said that word and not me, because that is definitely not how I would have said it. Say it again. I'm sorry.
It's an energony, which literally means kid, and
Right.
energony is kind of not a nice way to say an old person.
Right.
But I've been called this because I tried to hang out with some friends in Korea, and they were like, oh, great, it's like 9 o'clock. What do you want to do next? And I was like, I'm going to bed. I don't know what you're doing.
You're going to get tagged then. You're going to be called an old soul, basically.
Yeah.
So it's sort of old soul, but with a more of a negative connotation.
Old soul, I feel like, is your spirit. I feel like anecdote could also just be like, oh, this person is tired in vibe.
They're
like
breaking down.
actual,
Sure.
Yeah.
They're decomposing.
Yes, I guess he said. I mean, look, I think that like my impression of like what it is like to be famous in Korea as a young person is that it is a lot of work and you are constantly being thrust into various limelights.
Mhm.
They're often multi-hyphenates, right? Like they'll act, they'll sing, they'll host TV shows. And I feel like they must all be fucking exhausted. I
so
feel for
tired.
them. It's so sleepy.
Yeah, being famous sounds really tiring.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you're famous.
No.
Are you tired?
I am, but separately.
Okay. All right. You know, Rain is obviously very well known at this point.
Had he done films, or is this kind of his big acting crossover?
That's a good question.
I feel like he must have been in Korean dramas before. But I don't know.
Yes,
what the
he
timeline
had
is.
been in a movie called Sangdu, Let's Go to School. Oh no, that's a TV show. Sorry.
Okay.
So you know, probably the sort of Saved by the Bell of its day. I have no idea. And he had a breakthrough success with his third album, It's Raining,
Yes.
which I just think is a fantastic name.
And
in
man, the confidence to
2004.
hold on to that title until the third album.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. What were his first two albums called?
It's pouring.
How to Avoid the Sun.
The old man is snoring.
It's sprinkling, it's pouring, it's raining. He gets to himself.
Now it's raining.
Yeah.
He
It's
also
drizzling.
he was in a television show called Full House,
Oh, that was super famous.
which was apparently a huge deal. It was based maybe on a comic book or something, like some kind of
There's a very funny
manhwa
thing. Yeah, manhwa, that means comic.
Right.
Manhwa. There's like a weird trend of Korean shows having the same names as American shows, but then having nothing to do with the American.
Interesting.
So like Full
Okay.
House, I think, has nothing to do with the American Full House. There's also, I think there's like a While You Were Sleeping. There's like a bunch of stuff
can
where I'm
see it.
like, oh, this is iconic American
Sure.
stuff remade? Question mark. It's like
No.
not at all.
No, just
Yeah.
borrowing the title.
Because there
Yeah.
also are like American films that get remade.
Of
right?
course, yeah. I think there was like a Little Women that came out a few years ago, and you read the
Yes,
story,
yes.
and you're like, this actually has nothing to do.
But are they very small? Maybe are they like
Yeah,
2
they're
inches
so tiny.
borrower
Microwave.
type?
Actually,
Right.
they're giant.
Oh, it's ironic.
They're so big.
Little
No, I think
Women.
I remember because there were like 4 Little Women movies all around the same time, leading up to the Gerwig one.
Wait, they're really?
Yes, there were some. There was like one that was sort
There
of
was
Christian.
There was a Leah Thompson, I think, semi-Christian modern
Yeah.
day adaptation.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a TV one with
Mhm.
Maya Hawke, and I forget who the
Mhm.
mother was.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
Oh.
And then, yes,
and then
there's-
there was the Korean one.
The
Yeah,
Korean one, I think, has nothing to do with the book. It's like also 3 girls, which is the wrong number of girls.
It is 3 sisters.
Yeah.
and they're all like 6'5".
And yeah.
3 sisters who play basketball. No, I don't know. Yeah, 3 sisters who were.
And people online kept saying it was
Based on.
yeah, but I really just was like, if that's true, they're just using this for publicity. Because
Sure.
absolutely no way.
It is loosely based
No.
on
Mm.
Lindsay
Interesting.
May Alcott's novel, apparently.
You should edit the Wikipedia page.
I'm going to do that right now.
That's like-
weird. I've been banned from Wikipedia.
It's like Life and Death of Colonel Blimp.
Right. Yeah. Where it's like, we're going to take that guy
Right,
who's
But
like
then
a
not.
character, but not
Right.
really. Yeah.
right. It's Life and Death of Colonel Blimp is like one of the best movies ever made, Karen, and it's
Oh.
this British
It's a good movie.
film about like the entire life of a man and his lost loves and his friendships over like decades and wars and whatever.
Oh, great.
And they basically took the title of a very popular comic strip of like about a buffoonish general or colonel rather.
Yes.
And then it took nothing else from it. The
Wow.
character in the movie is not even named Colonel Blimp. He doesn't look like the cartoon character.
I think you'd like it.
It's incredible.
sounds
It's
fantastic.
incredible.
It's like
film.
guys who look like this, you know?
Ah,
I feel like
love
that's your
that.
vibe.
That
Right.
is my
Exactly.
vibe.
But it's basically if you were like, I'm making a movie about Snoopy, and then you made John Wick.
Yeah.
Right.
You're like, well, there is a dog in it.
Right.
The military is involved. But they just truly coasted off of using a popular comic strip name and then none of it. Nothing used.
Who is that old man? He was so sweet looking.
That's the fucking guy who's
the
not
guy?
Colonel Blimp. He's the
Okay,
main character.
I'm gonna watch this movie.
It's so good. One of the best movies ever made.
Yes. Im Soo-jung plays, and I apologize, of course,
Mm.
if I'm getting these names
No.
wrong, who plays the female lead, had been on a TV show and he calls her one of his favorite actors ever.
And she's in A Tale of Two Sisters, right?
Correct.
That was before this?
That is from 2003. That she's the lead of that. That seems like a very scary movie. That was a very, very, very popular Korean film.
I think it was like a pretty big crossover thing here.
Certainly in that sort of early phase of sort of Korean movies crossing over. Look at this. I'm sorry, Karen. I'm sorry to show you these bloody sisters. Was remade, of course, as the terrible English film The Uninvited.
Right.
With Elizabeth Banks and Emily
yes,
Browning.
Yes.
So she was in that. He just loves her. He knows the director of Tale of Two Sisters.
Okay.
And that director basically said, like, come to the auditions, like, check out some of these people I'm seeing. And so that they
Oh, so he sees her auditioning for Tale of Two Sisters
and like basically notes her and is like, she's great.
Yeah.
I think she is great.
She is.
Film.
Oh,
she's incredibly winning.
And this is a tough performance.
It's a tough performance to be like, oh, she was charming. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And like to play someone who's not really in conversation with themselves.
Yeah.
Is sort of performing oddly. The character is performing oddly within the movie, but it's all sort of unresolved trauma going on. So you need to have the depth going on underneath the surface, even if she's kind of inscrutable.
Right. And I was really struck by how much she loved her grandma. Like I was struck by how much I was moved by that. Because you don't really see her emote
otherwise.
Yeah.
Right. She is like largely, it's true, she's largely shut off, but they have a connection that's kind of beyond words.
Well, that's right. It's like that's the central trauma of the movie is her grandmother was the person who actually cared about her and the person she actually related to. And then she saw everyone around her go like, no, forget about her.
Well, you know what's wild?
She can't exist in society.
One of the reasons why she complains about her grandma, the mom complains about the grandma is that she only eats radishes at home.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you picked up on this, but when they go into the mental institution, they're served radishes.
Right.
Like that's what the lady's crunching on the whole time. I don't know. That's probably symbolic of something, and I have no idea.
I mean, radishes are delicious and crunchy, and I personally love radishes.
That was probably what the symbolism is.
That they are delicious.
Product placement for radishes.
Big Radish was behind this movie.
It was a 20th century radish production. I don't know if you noticed that.
Rain, he also says, I wanted someone not technically polished, but who could reflect the pure innocence of the character. Bit of a backhanded compliment there.
Sure.
This is apparently Rain's first film. He'd been in television.
I think he's good in this.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. I was shocked by how much he didn't, and this is going to sound like a backhanded thing, but I mean this as a true compliment, is he didn't seem to want to seem like a movie star.
No.
Like, and I mean that in the best way.
There's like no ego to this performance.
No ego. Yeah. No like trying to be glamorous or handsome. Just straight up like, I want to play the role this movie needs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's not a very show-offy performance at all. And he's wearing a mask, especially the first chunk of the movie.
A lot of helmets.
Yeah, exactly. There's not like
but there's the bunny mask for
that's one of his big sort of defense mechanisms, I feel like.
But
he's pretty happy with how the movie comes out, but it doesn't do very well.
Right.
And it's, it's obviously sort of heavy on CGI and experimentation for him and all that. Like he's trying some new stuff, but I don't think he's down on this movie at all.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I guess he basbasically goes right into Speed Racer after this.
Well, Rain does, yes. So,
I was talking Park. You were saying, sorry,
Park,
yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I guess he'd never done something with this sort of amount of digital effects. Not that his films become super heavy with it later on.
His film, like Decision to Leave, uses a lot of visual effects to accomplish like kind of
more invisibly
strange camera moves and things like that. But right. It's rare. He doesn't really do movies about like supernatural things.
No. So Rain's character in this film, he says that he's basically spent the last 5 years in institutions in different facilities. And he's sort of in this rut of feeling like, I just can't function in society.
Yes.
But he's in this odd in-between place of like, he is sort of more cognitively together than everyone else around him, but also not together enough to be able to exist outside of these walls.
Right. He also... Sorry, go ahead.
No, he knows enough to understand that everyone else is behaving strangely.
Right.
But he doesn't... His response to that is, how can I entertain myself?
Yeah. He also was kinder, I feel like, than or more willing to try to figure out how to help people than the actual doctors there.
That's this is what I really like about this movie, and I
Yeah,
find
I
very
loved
touching,
that.
is that he's like fucking with all these other people, and then he
Yeah.
sees her and he really connects to her, and he becomes the first person to like speak her language.
Yeah, yeah.
Like he actually, everyone else is sort of like, I don't know what to do with this fucking woman, right? She's like off in her own insane world, but her world is also dangerous because she's not eating, because she's stuffing wires into her veins, right?
Right.
Like all these things she's doing in her belief that she's a cyborg are like causing severe harm.
They're not harmful to anyone else, but they're
But to
going to
her.
kill her.
Yeah,
Yes.
They're
yeah.
absolutely going to kill her.
Right.
And he's the one person who's like, what if I like enter her world?
Right.
Right.
That
What
was
if
so
I can
sweet.
what if I can share in the delusion or whatever, however you want to put it?
Right.
Like entertain the concept she's wrestling with
Right.
as a way of reaching her.
Which, look, as you said, there's no Nurse Ratched in this movie,
Right.
but none of the employees of the facility know how to deal with her.
No, I mean, to be fair, I also wouldn't know how to deal with her.
I wouldn't either.
I would struggle to tell someone who wants to eat batteries that they shouldn't eat batteries.
She licks them,
Yeah, right.
to be
But I
fair.
do feel like it was just an example of a man taking a woman seriously instead of being like, you crazy. Which is very nice. But there is that moment
Time
where
to listen.
there's like a moment where one of the doctors towards the end of the movie is like talking with her and trying to figure out what's wrong with her,
Sure.
right?
Mhm.
And then you see the doctor get kind of giddy
Right.
about trying to diagnose this
Right,
person
like
with
what a
something that's
strange case this is.
yeah,
Yes.
and
Right.
then you're like, oh, like that
Right.
feels ethically bad.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
again, obviously, this film is not a realistic portrayal of anything, but I
Right,
do
right.
think there is that element of like she's an intriguing case first and a person second
Right.
to some people. Or
Yeah,
whatever, right?
she's like, right, she's like a puzzle for them to solve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this film is a romantic comedy. I do think you can call it that,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it is more like the romance is sort of secondary to just their sort of compassionate friendship or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this is not really I guess you could call it kind of a love story. You could.
ultimately gets there, but it
Yes,
takes
right.
a while before it feels like it really becomes romantic.
That's the thing. It takes a
Yeah.
while
Right.
before it really is even about the pair of them.
They're
Mhm.
kind of
There's
just
so much environmental stuff.
right. He's just kind of hovering around for a good chunk of the movie.
Right.
It's another thing I find interesting is the movie does kind of change perspectives several times.
It
You know,
does,
you're not
yes.
always with her. You start with the mother, then you're sort of from the perspective almost of the employees, the other patient who's giving her the tour. You know, it takes a while before you're in her headspace.
Right.
And even then you're then shifting back and forth between him and her.
For
Which
sure.
is part of why you don't know, you can't always anticipate when something's going to turn into a fantasy sequence. Because you might feel like you're in an objective reality and then suddenly her fingertips turn into guns and her mouth opens up.
Right.
It
And for
happens a
her,
couple
that's
times.
like reality.
Right.
Yes. Which is hard to reconcile because how does she feel about what happens afterwards?
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
But we don't really, again, the movie is not really rooted in anyone's perspective, like you say.
Yeah.
Her hair's very big.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also
That was a
think
great observation.
Thank you.
there's
Her
something.
eyebrows are blonde.
Oh,
She
another
does have the
great
light eyebrows.
observation.
That's very true.
I'm like
Yeah.
15
Which is
years
very-
ahead of the trend.
I was gonna say, yeah, that was popular last year.
Yeah.
It's very hot
2022.
stuff right
Oh,
now.
that was popular last year?
Oh,
I really missed out on this trend.
Kim went to the Met with blonde eyebrows.
Kim Kardashian.
First name basis.
Oh,
but
I
yeah.
see. I truly, when you say Kim, I was like the last name of a Korean person.
Right.
Oh,
There are a lot
sure.
of Korean
Right,
people
of
with that
course.
name, of course.
Incredible. Yeah. Okay. Well, good for her.
Yeah, why aren't your eyebrows blonde?
I know. What a
Jesus.
good question.
David,
I'll
you
get
should
on that.
fucking bleach your eyebrows.
I think that would look so bad.
I just am born this way.
Wow.
You have fair
Wow.
eyebrows.
We were all thinking it and nobody had the guts to say it.
Oh, by the way, Karen, Ben got his ears pierced recently.
That's
Really?
true. Ben's
Just
got
one.
the stud. Wait,
Wait,
where's the
where?
stud?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you can barely see
At
it.
37, he decided impulsively.
That's a great idea.
You have
Yeah.
pierced ears.
I
Karen,
do,
not
I
to call
do.
you out.
I'm thinking about getting a second piercing for either ear.
Oh, you should do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Why not? I don't know.
Why not?
I feel
Ben's-
great.
I see Ben like getting competitive. Like you
Ben's
said
like-
second piercing and Ben like sort of like narrowed his
I have-
eyes. and was
I have
like,
second piercing is in like piercings 3 and 4. So Ben, you
Oh,
gotta
sure.
catch
Right.
up.
All right.
Right. Ben has one piercing right
Hmm,
now. I have
lame.
0.
Yeah, I got 9.
Yeah,
Uh,
you guys got to get caught up.
Yeah. But Ben is calling this
Just
his
so worried about seeming like a dad who's having a midlife crisis.
Are you having a midlife crisis though?
I don't know. Like the piercing might tip me in that direction.
Yeah, you're also a dad. That's a problem. Ben could get away with it because he
That's what
isn't.
I'm saying. I just feel like it's a thing dads do, and you're kind of like, okay,
That's pretty
okay,
cool.
dad.
No,
Right.
it's acceptable as a 37-year-old guy.
Ben's
For the
entering
first time in my life,
he's
to get my
calling-
ear pierced.
I think
Bad Boy
it's good.
2.0 phase.
That's right. That's right.
Anyway, but yeah, she does have, she just has big hair. The design of her is, I feel like, intentionally robot-y.
And very sort of
Yeah.
jagged bangs.
Yes.
Like it
Yes.
looks like she cut it herself with like child-proof arts and crafts scissors.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She looks like slightly plasticky because her face is, because of the bleached eyebrows. I feel like it makes her look, you know what I mean?
like drawn.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
she's
the
literally wearing like a burlap sack. Like they're
Yeah.
she is wearing a burlap
they're
sack. Yes.
jumpsuits.
Not
for-
everyone else is wearing a burlap sack.
Right.
Like Rain is wearing clothes. She's
Yes.
wearing like a button down
Yeah.
or whatever.
I also love the woman whose condition was, I guess, just skincare.
Yes.
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 That
She's
was
fun.
Obsessively.
So funny. Yeah.
Right. What are the
and-
other one? There's the mythomaniac, who's the one who can't remember her own life, so she compulsively makes up narratives.
Right.
Right.
And then she tells her that one of the guys, his problem is that he sewed his butthole closed.
Right.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah, but that's not true.
No, but he does compulsively constantly pull
Yes.
fabric out of his ass crack.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's who else is there? There's the polite person. I don't know. There's a lot of, I'm trying to think of other stuff that happened in this movie. There's a lot of table tennis.
Right.
There's a grandfather clock that they're all kind of obsessed with.
Right. Because someone died inside the grandfather
Yes.
clock. Yeah.
The facility itself is very like bright. There's a lot of like art on the walls. I feel like, there's a lot of sort of, there's like a big water feature with plants and stuff. Like it's got
does
this kind of whimsical
kind
quality.
of feel like a daycare center.
It
right.
does,
Sort of like a
yeah.
kindergarten almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a cute cat. Who's the guy with the glasses?
Oh, the one who was angry.
Yeah, who's got like sort of the cravat and stuff.
Is he the impotent guy who had the furry wife?
Yes, that's
Yes.
right. Yes, yes.
Oh.
That's what it is.
Which he means that literally. He's not saying his wife was into like
into people dressed as animals.
anthropomorphized.
She had fur
Right.
on her face.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, do we think that was true?
Probably not.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's sort of part of the fun, right?
It's what I
Yeah.
like about this movie. Yeah, that it doesn't
Pans
give
to
you
the wife and it's a dog. Ah, cool. Good for him.
furriest wife of all.
I'm trying to think, like, what else? There's this whole section where Rain puts on what I want to call a sort of Where the Wild Things Are crown mask.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Is he a robot? What's going on there?
Letting the wild
exactly?
rumpus start.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it looks something
I feel like that's when he's starting to get closer to her.
right.
Yeah.
I view that as him trying to relate to her.
Exactly. Because
To be
he
let
wears a lot of
in.
masks to sort of
Yeah.
whatever.
I did
like,
love
express
the
himself.
moment where when everybody sort of starts going feral and like yelling, he just sort of closes the hole on his mask and he's
Yes.
like in his little mask.
Yes.
That was a great move.
But he starts
he's very
really
handsome.
He's hot. He starts really engaging with the rules of her reality,
Mhm.
right? I need to recharge in this way. I can't eat food because it will cause me to short circuit. The way I know that my batteries are charged, my toenails light up.
Mhm.
Right.
All these different things. As her condition is getting worse and worse, she keeps on putting herself in these extreme situations. And more than anything, she's like on this perpetual hunger strike.
Yes.
They cannot get her to.
I mean,
eat.
she has a little battery in a little lunch pail that she will lick, but that's not
Right.
really doing it for her
Right.
stomach wise. Right.
But I just like I'm very moved by the whole sort of section where he like builds the device for her
Yeah.
and is like, this converts human food into electrical currents.
Right.
Yeah.
This makes it safe for you to eat. Like he really just gets to her level. The scene where he does basically like the surgery on her,
Yeah.
where he's gonna like rewire her, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And you see him with the scalpel.
Ugh.
And then it cuts to her like wincing in pain
And
as if
it's a
he's cutting her
pencil.
open. It's a pencil. He's drawing like a little door on her back.
That scene is also like, it's sort of like the only time the film really brushes against like sexuality. She has to
Yes.
like undress for him,
Mhm.
but he's obviously very shy about it and
Right.
it's not really like looking.
You're only seeing her back.
You only see her back,
Right.
but there's this kind of like tenderness and intimacy to it that is interesting.
It's very intimate.
Yes.
There's a funny moment where, because he is using that like locket of his mom, right? That
Yes.
woman is supposed to be his mom. I don't know, because I didn't watch it with subtitles. I assume it was done well, where there's a part where they're sitting together and he like looks at the picture of his mom and he essentially just says his mom was really hot. And of course the boys didn't leave her alone. I don't know if that.
I don't.
I like laughed out loud. He like looks at this picture of his mom looking I want to say, I'm sure she's a beautiful woman. In that photo, she does not look at all attractive or trying to be attractive. And he looks at it and he's just sort of like, of course the men didn't leave you alone. I was like, that's
Mega
so
babe.
sweet.
There is something funny though to like as we're going through like their conditions, right?
Yeah.
The game that each character has that's sort of their problem, their condition. Most of them are like not bad things, right? It's like this person's too polite. This person's like too regimented about their skincare.
Yeah.
Right? This person feels shame about who they loved, right? And like everyone's trying to like solve her as like a sport. How do you get this woman to stop thinking she's a robot?
Right.
And he's basically like, how do I convince her that I've upgraded her robotics so that she can act like a human?
Yeah.
You don't make her stop acting like a robot.
You're not going to snap her out of it. That doesn't seem like
you make her think that the technology is evolving.
Right.
And suddenly she can do other things.
She's a cyborg, but that's okay.
In fact.
Karen, does that happen when you watch a Korean film?
Mm-hmm.
And you see it maybe with English subtitles, do you note a disparity between what's actually being said and how it's been sort of simplified for an English language audience? Because I have heard about this, particularly with Korean.
Shout out to Stephanie Y. Hong.
Did
this for a living.
Oh, yeah. I do. You know what? A funny thing is I watched Parasite with my parents in the theaters.
Sure.
Our whole family went. My brother was also there. I don't know why I really cut him out of that story.
I went with my parents. My brother also showed up uninvited.
Kept complaining that there wasn't enough Barbosa in it.
Oh my God. Truly his favorite character. We love him.
I mean, he is a good character.
Great character.
We were watching it, and I remember the four of us realized we were like, oh, there must be another Korean speaker towards the front of the theater because we all laughed at something that nobody else in the theater had laughed at.
Right.
I don't remember what it was, but it was clearly like a joke that didn't translate onto the, in the subtitles. But yeah, and I think there are literally words that exist in one language and the other that don't exist in the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, well, what can you do? That's just how it is.
Yeah.
What else do we want to talk about with I'm a Cyborg, but that's okay? Which is not a really like sort of narratively straight movie. It's like it's not like there isn't, like it's episodic. There's stuff that happens.
I read some obviously translations of reviews at the time. So who knows if the wording is being presented to me correctly? But people complaining that this movie was slow paced.
Oh,
and I wouldn't call it slow paced. It's a very energetic movie, but I mean,
it's meandering in its story.
Exactly, and he doesn't have a lot of plot.
He made 3 like fucking revenge thrillers, right?
That are very like Hitchcockian and complex.
Propulsive.
And,
man on a mission, woman on a mission. Here's what you got to do.
Yeah.
You have your target. This movie moves a lot. It just moves in like 1,000 different directions at all times.
It moves sideways a lot. Maybe that's what they meant. Like it's not really going to a new place.
Yes.
No,
I would
but
agree with
it's
that.
not slow paced.
I love learning that it was. I love learning, but I love learning that it was inspired by Toy Story, or partly inspired by Toy Story.
No,
That's incredible.
It does make sense. The sort of like there's imaginative play happening in a weird way in this place.
Right.
Yeah.
As much as there is this like, which I guess is sort of true of Toy Story 2, where you're sort of like, there is a slightly melancholic element to what's happening to this.
Toy Story 2 is so sad.
Yeah, it's my favorite movie.
Well, I mean, as we've talked about Toy Story on this podcast, but yes, obviously, as the Toy Story movies progress, and you can only ask more questions about these immortal beings.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like what their existence is, then yes, it gets
But there's
sadder.
the other part of it that's sort of very connected to the characters in the institution in this movie, which is like Rex's entire existential crisis is like, I do not fit the behavior of a dinosaur, but I was manufactured to be a dinosaur.
Right.
This is not my spirit.
Right.
Right. And you have these things that are like built
Yet
for
I must roar.
I must roar. Right.
Right.
All Mr. Potato Head would love to do is for his facial features to stay in place.
Oh,
and
love
yet
him.
the curse always falling out.
Well, also he has to like keep his frown in his butt. Like he has a weird sort of thing.
My friend, I think he's keeping the smile in his butt. He's frowning most of the time.
He frowns often. That's true. I had a Mr. Potato Head.
Me
What
too.
a strange toy.
Incredible toy.
I guess so.
It's also so funny that it was, I mean, you guys know that the original toy was just a box of parts and went, provide your own potato.
What?
That's why it was called Mr. Potato Head.
Wait,
It was just,
really?
it was just a box of, and they were much sharper. Because
Sure,
they had to
'cause
be
you
able
gotta get 'em in
pierce
there.
through a vegetable. And
A raw
Say
vegetable.
vegetable again.
Vegetable.
Yeah, great. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, and then at some point they were like, well, the brand is Mr. Potato Head, but we should start selling the body. Kids, like parents don't want kids playing with a moldy potato. So then they turn to a plastic potato. And then you're like, that's weird that it's still just like this sort of like brown plastic oblong that doesn't really look like a potato anymore. And you just tell me it is.
Yeah, and it doesn't, I don't know. I just remember he didn't really jive with my other toys. He's such a strange being. He's also very large.
Yeah.
So like you put him against like an action figure, you'd
Weird
be like,
scale.
what are these guys are friends? Like
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do with this?
Well, once again, I think the characterization's on point. He's not really friends with anyone else in Andy's room.
Except for Mrs. Potato Head.
Well,
Right.
I
He
mean,
does.
she was
I
made
did
for him.
love in the beginning of the first movie where he goes like, "What are you looking at, you hockey puck?"
he does say
And
that.
then after that, anytime I had like a team name, I always was like, "We should be the hockey pucks."
Cool.
Yeah,
Even in basketball.
even in basketball.
Which is your favorite of the Toy Stories?
The first one.
You're number one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
also rewatched it because I have a niece and nephew. I rewatched it during the pandemic.
Yes.
And I was like, "Oh, this is just a movie about like jealousy and rage,
It is.
unbridled."
Yes.
It was
Right. And you work in
unbelievable.
show business.
Yes,
So you know
yeah.
about that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, but it was incredible of like how jealousy can become evil if you let it. You know what? Like it was.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes. No,
wow.
Woody is quite, as we've talked about.
Yeah.
Like he's a pretty green-eyed
Yeah.
and petty man.
I mean,
And
once
the
again, we've done
only
5 full
reason-
episodes on
I-
we
this.
have.
listen,
We love Toy
No, but
Story.
You gotta
Karen,
re-record.
I am always happy to talk about it. Sorry, you were about to say.
Oh no, I was just gonna say the only reason he's able to pull it off and be a likable protagonist is I think it's because it's Tom Hanks.
Yes,
It's an
absolutely.
excellent
Yeah.
performance from Tom
Do you know?
Hanks, yes.
Do you know the crazy story where like it was Jeffrey Katzenberg? That's like the end of his run. I'm retelling a thing, but it was on
Tell-
Patreon.
It was
before.
on Patreon, so it's fine.
It's the end of Katzenberg's run before he leaves for DreamWorks, right?
Uh-huh.
And his big thing was like, I want to make like an animated movie that's more for adults, that has like
Wow.
edgier humor,
Uh-huh.
and it like basically Shrek becomes what he was always trying to push.
Shrek?
Yeah,
I
right.
love Shrek.
But like that was the vibe he wanted of like, can it be like a lot more sarcastic and
Yeah,
sort
yeah,
of like in on the joke and whatever. And the Disney brand was so strong that when Pixar comes in from the outside with the Toy Story pitch, he's like, maybe this is the avenue to be able to do something that's a little more
Mm.
biting and a little more hard edge. And so they're developing the movie and he keeps on pushing them to be like meaner, darker, more acidic, whatever. And then they do this screening where they like have the scratch template voices and the storyboards. And they screen it for all the Disney executives right before they give them the thumbs up and give them the money to start animating. And they're like, it was the most disastrous screening of all time. It was like the darkest film we had ever seen.
Right.
It was like so brutally dark. Disney wanted to shut it down. And Pixar was like, give us a weekend. We'll roll it back.
Wow.
And I find it fascinating that that's the whole story of like the movie almost falls apart because it was too dark. And then you watch it and you're like, in the version that came out
yeah.
and was a massive totemic hit that has lasted, he is still such an asshole.
He must have been really
Yeah.
intolerable in the end. Because yeah, he's a relatable.
Yeah,
You get
absolutely.
it.
So
You get
bad
why
for him.
Woody feels the way he feels.
Of course, yeah.
But he is not the typical like.
No.
If he were to sing an "I Want" song, it would be like, "I want this guy to go away because
Yeah,
I feel
get the
inadequate."
fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Right. And he's like, he's petty.
yeah.
He's like rude. He's sarcastic. Yeah. It's all Hanks.
Ugh, we love Hanks.
We love Hanks.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Famously.
Yeah. He's got to be nice.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
he's pretty nice.
He must be.
Did you see that quote from him recently where they were like, you have a reputation for being nice. And he's like, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I
A
bet
lot of
that's
times on
true.
set where I really would have loved to have been an asshole.
Yeah, I really, really bet that. I feel like if you're Larry David,
Yeah.
it's so much easier being Larry David than being Tom Hanks,
And
right?
people want you to be kind of a jerk.
Right.
And but then if you're nice, people are like, "Oh my god,
Right, yeah.
what the
Well,
fuck?
That's the
You're
thing.
nice."
Everyone says Larry David is very nice.
But I bet it's just because he's not as rude as
Sets
you
the
think he's going to be.
expectations.
Yeah.
Right.
Brilliant.
Whereas
And
if
then-
Tom Hanks doesn't hand you $100 in cash as soon as
Right.
you meet him, you're going to be like, what an asshole.
I was just. You need to not only
I
be
thought you were
nice.
nice.
Yeah.
Where's my money?
to
Where's
be
my money?
balancing my bank
I heard
account.
you're wealthy as hell.
Get me out of the
That's
hole.
why, I will say that's why I bought you coffee seconds into meeting
Yeah.
with Karen.
Yeah.
I was just like, I better fucking be the
I
Hanks.
was
It is
gonna
nice
say,
here.
For
It's
the
got my
record,
card.
I offered to
You did.
get
You did. You were
coffee.
reaching for the wallet.
Yeah.
And I was like, you were literally buying more drinks for blank check hosts
Yeah.
than yourself right now. I will buy these drinks.
I love the admission from Hanks of like, because you read all those stories about him and you're like, is he just wired better than all of us?
No.
He's
And he's
just
just
a relatively well-adjuted guy.
He is,
in
but he
a-
also
an
was like,
industry
God,
that's
like
not that
takes fucking
well-adjusted.
effort to be nice all
Right,
the
he's
time.
trying to be nice.
I
You know
try
what?
to do it,
It's hard work being nice.
It
I think
is.
That's true.
but that's okay.
but that's okay.
I think more titles should be reassuring in that way.
Yes. It was a great title.
Incredible title.
Yeah.
I am pretty sold by the title alone.
Yeah.
But I did expect her to be a cyborg.
You thought
going in.
Sure.
The only thing I knew about this film was the poster in which she is sort of floating. They're in like this green padded room.
Right. Well, because the scene where they finally kiss for the first time, she has to float up to be able to reach him.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
that's cute.
It is very cute.
Yes.
But I thought like, oh yeah, this is like about a guy who falls in love with a robot.
Yeah.
Like that's what it'll be about.
Yeah, the other thing this movie isn't is like the K-Pax of like, but what if she is secretly? She might. They think she's crazy, but what if she's
no
really...
winking at like, hey man, maybe she is.
Right.
Yeah.
Like even just the first time you see her, if I remember correctly, is in the mother explaining the suicide attempt. And you see clearly that she cuts in and her arm bleeds.
Yes.
Like they're not showing you her mind's eye. Oh, it's a bunch of wires and gadgetry. Like you see that this was actually an act of violence.
Yes, it's actually a very shocking moment. So shocking that I did sort of initially have the thought of like, this can't be real because what a way to start the movie. And then you realize, well, no.
I think the score in this movie is very fun. There's basically one main theme he plays over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It's very whimsical and jaunty.
Music is credited to 3 different people.
Oh,
really?
So I don't know what the vibe is there.
Wow.
But one of them is his sort of main composer, Jo Young-wook. I don't know.
You have the end sequence where they sort of go out in the rain.
Yes, a lovely, lovely sequence, in my opinion. Yes, where basically, well, wait, there's this, okay, so she fantasizes about going on a rampage in the hospital because he's kind of like, you need to stop being sympathetic to the white coats, right? Like that's what sort of prompts all of that.
Right.
They start giving her shock therapy. She thinks it's recharging her. Like they think it's helping. Neither of these things are really working. Right?
And she's
it's sort of this like
to eat.
Beautiful, sad metaphor for like, how these interventions often are sort of like you're checking a box, but nothing's really happening.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. Yeah. He starts feeding her the food. Using the food to electrical converter or whatever, the rice Megatron.
Yeah.
But why do they go into this? Oh, because like she starts to think that she's a bomb and like lightning will make her blow up.
Yes, because her grandma, that's what she thinks her grandma was saying was the purpose of her existence, right?
Yes.
And it was like the purpose of your, it's like you are a nuclear bomb. You should blow up. It's like you need a certain like 10,000 volts or something, and you will blow up or something like that. Yeah.
They go out with this giant.
They go out
pole.
with a big lightning rod, and she's ready to get struck by lightning, and he puts a little cork on top of it to protect her from the wine bottle that they were, drinking out of, and it's this nice little reveal, right, of his sort of like continued enabling of her delusion, but in this sort of practical way. Yeah. Right? Is that the best way to put it? I don't know.
Yeah, no, because he gets through to her.
Right.
Right.
But he gets through to her. It's not exactly patronizing even, but like, by like whatever, by like indulging her, but also helping her in a way that helps her indulge. I don't know.
But also his whole problem is sociopathy, right? And he learns that he has the capacity to care for someone else. The amount of effort he puts into, whereas everyone else he's kind of like winding up to watch from a distance, as they spiral out into their own shit. He's like engaging with her and helping her. He's using the same kind of little stinker instincts that he uses to stir shit up.
Okay. Right.
But it's out of an act of pure empathy.
Right.
So he's like learning that he has the ability to care for another person.
Which is nice.
Yes.
Nonetheless, this film was a disappointment at the Korean box office. There's nothing else about the ending, right? Like that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is them in the rainbow.
The credits
appears, and then there's the credits.
The rainbow connection.
There is the credits sequence, which we should shout out, in which everyone who's involved in the film, their names are projected on the screen.
Crazy.
In an order.
Yeah.
Not
just like
spoiler
alert.
By.
This is the first time this had to happen. I'm just trying to place it in a timeline.
Right. Like, what the hell is this? A bunch of words?
Yeah.
Like all the actors get a shout out.
I know.
It's a book.
It's incredible.
Big ups.
The sound guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Nobody is left out.
No one is left
the best
out.
Boys.
Even the best boys.
We got three.
Truly, we're the best of boys.
We got 3 of the best boys here.
Way to pat us on the back.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It did make about it made about $4 million at the Korean box office, which was not very good.
Yeah.
And it was not very popular with critics.
It made like 3 of the highest grossing local films of all time.
I can see, because I think the idea of like, it would be, this is so embarrassing. Who made The Godfather?
Francis Ford Coppola.
If he was like, I'm doing a rom-com, I feel like people who normally watch rom-coms are like, I don't want to see a rom-com by this guy.
That is absolutely
and everybody
the
who
vibe.
likes his stuff is going to be like, I don't want to watch a rom-com. I want another Godfather. And then nobody is going to go watch it. Yeah.
Francis Ford Coppola made a weird, dreamy musical with Tom Waits songs that he self-financed himself and drove himself into bankruptcy.
What is it called?
It's called One from the Heart.
One from the
But
Heart.
it's exactly
a very
what you're
strange
describing,
film.
where he was just like, and it's all dreamlike, and it's all these transitions through mirrors, and it's these lost
when is
souls.
there a horse's head?
Right.
Though?
Yeah.
Like
Right.
severed.
And he was just like, no, this is what I need to be making. And people were like, fuck you.
Yeah.
They were furious.
They were furious.
And like mocked him for like his foolishness.
Right.
Yes.
This was maybe not quite as epic a bomb as that, but it certainly...
It didn't ruin Park Chan-wook's life for a decade.
It definitely got this reaction of like, what do you think you're doing?
Yeah.
I think.
Go back to your lane.
And so, but he thinks he at the time of release, he says it's one of his favorite films that he's ever made. He says he has the most fun watching it.
Mm-hmm.
He says he put the most affection into it. And it hurts the most seeing it being treated unkindly.
His daughter thought it was mid.
It was not released in American theaters, so it was not really reviewed by American critics. But it did play at some festivals. I think it was at Berlin, where it maybe won a prize. But not really much to talk about on that front. So we're gonna have to play the box office game from its release date, but in America, which is a box office game we've done before again. Fuck. But don't worry, you never remember these anymore.
No, I don't remember anything.
But I think it's going to be fun because I want to see if Karen has seen this movie. The reason we've done this box office game before. How do you feel about the movie The Holiday?
Oh, I did love The Holiday.
We've done it on
Listen,
the show.
The Holiday is so long it makes no sense, and I think it's a bad movie.
Okay,
but I
you
love
are correct.
watching it.
You are right. But now Griffin's going to ask you a very important question because
Okay.
we are divided.
Which half of The Holiday do you think
You've
is
got
better?
Cameron
Which plot
Diaz
Oh,
with
okay.
Jude Law, and you've got Jack Black with lovely
US
Kate
or
Winslet.
UK?
When you have to pick between those two,
Yes.
US.
Thank
but
you.
Here's the thing that I found so annoying is you watch that whole movie that I feels like it's 4 hours long.
Well,
And
I believe it
then-
is 4 hours.
It's an epic
long.
miniseries.
Yes, it's
At the
like the
very
sorrow and the
end.
pity, that fucking movie.
At the very end, you see for like 2 seconds Kate Winslet and Jude Law just dancing together as siblings, and they have so much chemistry.
Yes.
That it's disturbing because
Yes.
you're their siblings, but also you're like, that's the rom-com we wanted. We don't want.
You think there should be a Holiday too where they're like, should we partner swap again? And Cameron Diaz is like, that's your brother.
Right. It's
Right,
like,
but-
come
It's
on.
like the heart wants what it
Yeah,
wants,
can you
baby.
deny?
And Nancy Myers is like, keep rolling. This is gold.
Oh man,
I agree with you on all counts. We
You prefer Kate Winslet in America with Jack Black going Scooby-Doo.
No, to be clear, what I prefer is Jude Law in a different rom-com that's good, where he
okay,
is the
all right.
protagonist, and
Sure.
nothing else from this movie is preserved except for the sweet old man who lives next
You
door.
like the sweet old
I
man.
want the sweet
Who
old man and
explains
Jude Law who
that
becomes.
things you want the two of them.
I
to
want
be-
two of them to be.
You want
best
Eli
friends.
Wallach on Jude
You're
Law.
doing some heavy
No.
surgery on the Holiday at this
I
point.
want
When I was a
Jude
kid, we
Law.
had sex with women. Now I have sex with Jude Law.
My dream version of the holidays. Jude Law is the one who comes to the U.S.
Yeah,
lives in that house, falls in love with
Eli
me.
Wallach. Oh, no, with Karen
And my
Chee. Okay.
grandpa is Eli Wallach, and
this
then
is a
we
good movie.
all have the holidays together.
Yeah.
Do you still want him to have like
A
a
cow?
kid? He doesn't have a cow.
He
Well,
has
he
a
does
cow.
have a cow.
He has a cow in that
Man.
movie.
But no, 2 daughters. Do you want him to do
That's
Mr.
fine. They're
Napkin
Oh,
Head?
of course I
Good
want
dad.
him to
Right,
do
you
Mr.
want all of
Napkin
that.
Head.
You want him to be daddy.
Do you want Cameron
yes.
Diaz loudly shrieking that she is bad at sex, which she does constantly in that
Yes.
movie? Every time I rewatch The Holiday, I'm like, I remember everything that's in this movie. Then I forget that Cameron Diaz is like, I'm so bad at sex.
Yeah, but David, she's great at editing movie trailers.
She is. She sure is.
Wait, the other movie I want instead of this movie is her two assistants are John Krasinski
Correct.
and Catherine Hahn.
That's right.
I want that rom-com.
Yeah.
They
That's
do
a
seem-
delight.
They may literally be having a, Rosencrantz Guildenstern movie. They might be having a romance within that movie. We just
Yeah.
don't see it.
Oh man.
They're two cuties.
They're
Absolutely.
two cuties.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Krasinski's in It's Complicated.
Yes.
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 He's not one of the children. He's marrying
He's
into
married.
that sick
I
family.
love
Soon to
It's
be son-in-law.
You do?
Complicated. Yeah.
What's your favorite Nancy Meyers movie?
The Parent Trap.
I believe I put that as my number one as well. No, I put The Intern at number one.
Oh, Griffin once
You
again
did?
canceled.
Yeah.
You put The Intern over The Parent Trap?
Parent Trap was my number two, to be fair.
Also my number 2.
Something's Gotta Give was your number one.
That
though.
movie's a masterpiece.
I feel like the man is too old in that
You think who's too old?
movie. The guy is too old.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson,
Yeah,
the
I was
guy.
like, sorry.
Mr.
I forgot his name.
Mr. Basketball.
As I was watching, I was like, oh, I'm too old.
I don't love that movie.
Sorry, is that horrible? Because here's what I think.
It's not hard. I think a
I
lot of people
like-
thought that. A lot of people were not that into
I
his.
like
Yeah.
movies with cute old people falling in love. That's
you don't
great.
want them to be horny.
I don't want him to be horny for that. For what's her
Diane
Amanda
Keaton.
Pete in the beginning.
Well,
yes.
well, sure.
Yes.
When I saw
true.
that, I was
Way
like,
too old for her.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
of course,
don't
that is
wanna
the plot of
watch
the movie
this.
is that is not cool.
Right.
Yeah.
But then once that happened, I was like, Diane Keaton deserves better than this
Well,
weird.
She's
old
literally
man.
offered Keanu Reeves on a plate.
I know,
I know.
and she's like,
she dips her bread in it. she gets some gravy on there. But then she's like, you know what? Take it back.
Take it back.
Bring me the dry aged steak. Dry.
This is why I love The Intern, is I think he's such a sweet character.
so
Alt De
sweet.
Niro, a
Right.
nice man.
There's no romance there.
That's
a
the
good
best
friend.
use of Robert De Niro.
Yes, it's his best performance. Is the pinnacle of his screen career.
I'm just trying to think of how many other De Niro movies are better than The Intern, but they're all inappropriate for Karen's
Yeah.
taste. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Name
I'm like,
a few.
well, but no. It may just be The Intern.
Right.
It's the best Robert De Niro. I'm trying
Yeah.
to think
Meet
of
the
if
Parents, I suppose.
I haven't seen that. I should
He's
watch it. I love
Better in The
Parents.
Intern than he is.
He's
in
far
Parents.
better in The Intern than he's in
Yeah.
Meet the
Ooh.
Parents is not a movie that has aged well
No.
at all.
No, but the sequels have aged worse.
that is true. Okay, so The Holiday
Box
is in
office
this
game.
box
Okay.
office game, Griff, which I probably don't remember because we did that
I-
many years ago.
Yeah, too long ago at this point. But The Holiday kind of bombed. It's lower in
It did. It opened number 3 to $12 million
Yeah.
in a sort of weird weekend where like a lot of movies are opening around that
Right.
period, around that
I'm
number.
trying to remember. We talked,
Number 1 is a period action horror.
November, December 2006.
We're talking December 7th, 2006.
Okay. I'm trying to place because I mean we talked about this on that episode, but The Holiday, one of the only movies I've ever walked out of, and not by my choice. My friends stormed out, and I followed them.
Right.
And I'm trying to remember what else we
Well, they
went.
were hungry. It was hour 82.
Oh.
And they were like, we need to eat. And Eli Wallach was like, "Ah."
No, he's perfect.
Back in my day, we didn't eat food.
Go on,
We ate
Eli.
fire. And now I'm just making him the guy from Wet Hot American Summer. Okay.
Yeah.
But I feel like we walked out into a different movie, which is probably whatever was number one.
You
at the
may
box
well-
office
Wait,
this
well-
weekend.
period action.
Period
is it
action
Pride and
horror?
Prejudice?
It's so hard to describe what this movie is.
But it was a hit.
It was a mild hit.
Hit,
It was the
okay.
follow. It made about $50 million in America. It was the follow up to one of the most successful films ever
Apocalypto.
made. The film is Mel Gibson's Apocalypto, the Mayan apocalypse drama. Karen's sort of looking at me sort of angrily.
Oh,
I
yeah,
would
I've
say.
never heard of this movie before.
It's his Passion of the
After
Christ
he
follow-up.
made, Mel Gibson made this film, The Passion of the Christ, about
This is the sequel to Passion of the Christ.
It's not a sequel, but it is.
It's his blank check
It is his
movie.
blank check. It's the movie
Yes.
where it's like after that he's like, great. Well, can I make a movie about like set in Mayan society,
Yes.
spoken in their indigenous language that is obscenely, insanely violent, and
Right.
kind of crazy.
Yeah, with no
Wow.
stars in it. And the
No.
movie is essentially one 30-minute foot chase.
Wow.
It's actually a great movie.
It's an excellent film. Unfortunately, it
It's
was
so-
directed by someone
Really?
who's
It
pretty
sucks.
crazy.
How great it is.
But yeah, it's pretty fun. Ben, you dig Apocalypto. I feel like we're all embarrassed that we like that.
Yeah,
movie. You know
because
what? What are you
Dave
supposed to do?
rules.
Especially because the ending is always like kind of stuck in my craw.
The ending's kind of incredible, I think.
Yeah, but it's sort of like a little pro-Christianity.
I disagree with that, but we got to save this for the Mel Gibson miniseries. We never do.
Our final series.
We record and then we just somehow bury it. I guess
Right.
like
We
on
shoot
the
it into
computer we
space.
recorded it on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, big pivot. Number 2.
Okay.
It's a fun animated film we've covered on this podcast.
In 2006, and we've covered it on this podcast, and it's not a Selick, and it's not a bird,
No.
and it's Happy Feet.
It's Happy Feet.
Oh,
Karen.
the Penguin movie.
Yes.
I haven't seen it.
Wow.
but it
I
seems
thought you
great.
might have seen that
It
one.
does seem right up my alley.
He's
You
a
should
dancing
watch that.
penguin.
Yeah. Very happy.
See,
Foot
all other
fetish.
penguins sing,
Oh.
and he doesn't sing. He goes tap 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 tap.
Oh,
And they
that's
don't.
Cute.
They cast him out of society because of that.
Oh
Yep.
man.
So he has to dance his way across Antarctica or whatever.
and back into their hearts.
Happy Feet, which we covered on the show. Happy Feet 2 better, in my opinion.
Happy Feet 2, a secret masterpiece.
Yeah.
Mm.
Brad Pitt plays a gay shrimp in that film.
Brad Pitt and Matt Damon.
Yeah, they
Oh.
play sort of existential, or
Krill.
they're krill.
They're
Incredible.
krill. They're bottom feeders, but they love each other.
They do. Number 3 at the box office is The Holiday.
Mhm.
Number 4 is an action film, big hit.
Big hit.
Major
action
character.
film. Major character. Like this becomes an ongoing.
It's been ongoing for many,
John
many
Wick.
years, and not that. And
Stuart Little.
But
You guys are both silent laughers, so I want the listeners to know they're dying right now. You should laugh loudly.
Karen, recently I've had a cold and I've been laughing, like wheezed laughing, which has been much more audible. I'm sorry that I'm basically over the cold now. I was kind of doing that, like that kind of thing. Sort of a Stuart Little
Harry
vibe
Potter.
from this guy. Not Harry Potter,
this
but
the
he is
first
English. It's the first one with this actor.
it's the
James
it's
Bond.
There you go. James Bond's Casino Royale.
Because there was one straight month where Happy Feet and Casino Royale were the number 1 and number 2
They were dueling.
movies in America.
Yes.
And fucking Mumble just kept on tap dancing all over
The
fucking
Penguin
Daniel Craig.
did beat his ass. Have you seen Casino Royale?
No.
Have you seen any James Bond films?
No.
But you're aware of his.
Oh yeah, I
general
know. I
vibe.
know who he is.
I'll say
Yeah.
we watched the Roger Moore.
So if you met
James
him,
Bond
he wouldn't have to say Bond James Bond.
No,
got-
I'd be like,
no.
I know who you are.
Right.
We watched. I'd never seen the Roger Moore James Bond movies, which are mostly like the 70s into the 80s ones. And we watched them for the podcast last year. Very silly.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
those-
Maybe a little more Karen.
Wow.
Those are the silliest.
Reaction shots from animals are
Oh.
plenty.
They're not to spoil, but there is a moment where a pigeon sees James Bond doing something wild and does a double take. And that's in the
That's
film.
so fun.
Yeah, and that's in a
It
film
rules.
about a British secret agent who, assassinates people.
And we gotta bring it back.
Number 5 at the box office. It's new this week. It's an Oscar nominated film. Kind of not a huge hit given its
Diamond?
reputation. It's Blood Diamond.
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
It multiplied well, but it was kind of an underperformer.
It opens to 8 and it makes 57. Not
Yeah.
very good.
No. A
You-
movie I've still never seen.
I assume you have not seen Blood Diamond.
No.
Very dramatic, very tense. A lot of
Mm.
violence, a lot of sadness.
Mm.
I don't know. Number 6, Deja Vu, a full-on masterpiece. I've always said Vertigo with 2 extra acts in a time machine. Sorry, Rear Window, not Vertigo.
Sure.
Number 7, Unaccompanied Minors, Paul Feig's
Yeah.
directorial debut, now forgotten,
Based on a This American Life segment.
starring future heartthrob Tyler James Williams. Is that
Yes.
his name? Chris from Everybody Hates
Really?
Chris.
Yeah.
Mr. Eddie?
Yeah.
Yes,
I love
exactly.
Mr. Eddie.
I just love that he is fucking doing it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that Chris from Everybody Hates Chris, who I was always like, oh, he's a child star. He was cute on that sitcom. It's
Yeah.
just like he's a grown up now. He's a romantic lead on
Oh,
a
yeah.
hit
Oh,
sitcom. He's
so
doing
handsome.
great.
He's such a good actor.
He's a really good actor.
yeah.
Anyway. Love
What
him.
was it Surprise or was it on Fallon? I saw him do some late night interview where he did his impression of how he can tell when people recognize him which thing they
It's
know
not
him
our
from.
show. Yeah.
Okay,
It
I
must
think-
have been-
shouldn't
I
talk
think it was
about it.
I think it
Kimmel.
was
I
on
feel
Fallon.
like
Look, it was a good segment. Would have been better if you'd done a pass on it. But he does like the bit everyone does about like, oh, different types of people recognize me from different stuff and I can tell. But he did his impression of just their facial reaction. And the difference between someone looking at him who watches Abbott Elementary, who knew him as a kid, and Everybody Hates Chris, or who saw him die in The Walking Dead. And it was really fun.
Oh, I forgot he was also in The Walking
Yeah.
Dead.
Yeah.
I've really been with him from the beginning. I watched every episode
We've
of
watched
Everybody
him
Hates
forever.
Chris. Yes. Good show. Underrated sitcom.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, well, that's the Nativity story is in the top 10 here.
A weird flop. That's
the sort of very straightforward it's post Passion of the Christ. They were
right.
like,
We'll just do that.
Literally the Nativity story.
And it's Oscar Isaac and Keisha Castle Hughes.
Correct.
Is Oscar Isaac Jesus?
He's Joseph. Jesus is played by a baby.
Oh,
right. Joseph, kind of the original cuck.
Yeah, got
Cooked
cucked
by
by God.
Embarrassing. Brutal.
Had to really just take that L.
Yeah.
Like it's just like I'm pregnant from someone else. Who? The guy over there? No.
The
God.
Lord.
The big man
The
upstairs.
Our Lord.
Yeah.
Our next door neighbor? No, our upstairs neighbor.
And comedy points.
Guy in the clouds.
We got a bunch of other Christmas movies. You've also got a film called Deck the Halls. Which one is that?
That's that movie is
Oh, you love it.
Matthew Broderick and Danny DeVito get caught in a bitter battle.
In their houses.
Who can have more lights on their house?
Right. There glows the neighborhood.
Yes.
That was the tagline.
That was the kind of we used to as a country, as a
We used to
nation.
make things. We used to make
We used to
garbage.
build
Like
things. We used to put $50 million towards Matthew Broderick going, I don't know. He has the lights on the house. I'm going to put more lights on the house. Hey, it's so bright. My eyes are burned out. Like, yeah, that's right. I put the lights there.
that would have to be a movie about like the business that invented Christmas lights or whatever.
Ryan Reynolds would play both of them.
Number 10
They'd
at the
both
box
be secret
office.
agents.
Right. Chris Evans does 4 cameos. They number 10 at the box office. Final Christmas film. The Santa
Final.
Claus 3, The Escape Clause. The one with Martin Short as Jack Frost.
Do you have any feelings on the Santa Claus trilogy, Karen?
I know, but I love Martin Short. I think we would be really good friends.
I think if you love Martin Short, you should never
Yeah, I
ever
agree with
see
that.
the Santa
Wait,
Claus 3, The
really?
Escape Clause.
Karen, I agree with you, and I agree with David. I think you and Martin Short would get
Yes,
on like
you
a house
definitely
on
would get
fire.
along.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Absolutely. Have you
Thank
never interacted? He's always on the
Oh,
late night shows.
I've never met him before.
Wow.
Oh, you should.
I feel
definitely.
like he's also quite small. We would just
He
be like
is.
two buds.
Oh,
you know?
you're. I suppose you're quite small.
I am.
But
Yeah.
he's smaller than me.
He's very
How
small.
small
I mean,
is
you've
he?
worked with Martin Short.
I
How
know.
small is he?
How small are you?
How small am I?
How small is everybody?
I'm 5'6".
And he's smaller than you?
Yes.
Karen, how tall are you?
I'm a little over 5'1".
Oh, you
So
really
he
are
might
very
be
short.
he
I think
might
he's
be
in
like my
between the two
height.
of us.
Oh,
I think he's
between us.
5'4".
Okay.
5'4".
Wow.
He's
We
got some
love
hair
matching
height.
outfits.
Yeah, he does love to stretch the hair.
Yeah.
Especially in the Santa Claus 3 where he
Yeah.
plays fucking Jack Frost with icicle hair.
Mhm.
But Karen, look, I hope the two of you meet and are able to form a happy life together.
Thank you.
Don't watch that movie.
Okay. I
Not a good
won't.
movie.
No.
Hey, if you're
You'll
going to do
hold
a
it against him.
short-a-thon,
Okay.
last on the list. Now, have you seen Clifford?
I was just
No.
gonna ask.
I've-
Okay.
Now that's a movie you definitely
Live
that's
action
required.
Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Not
No.
that
No?
one.
No.
Okay.
Clifford the little boy.
Sorry. I really
Clifford
thought that's
the
what you were talking
Little
about.
Rapscallion.
Clifford is
Oh.
a film that we have covered on this podcast.
Ben's favorite movie.
It's one of. It's not the,
It's
but
top.
one of.
Top
yeah.
tier.
in which Martin Short plays a 10-year-old boy. How old is he? Supposed to be like
Yeah.
8? Yeah, 10-year-old boy.
Uh-huh.
But as a grown-up Martin Short, and it's not acknowledged in the film that like a grown-up man is playing a 10-year-old
Drives
boy.
his uncle crazy. As
Great.
you can see by the fact that Charles Grodin is holding his head and going, this kid's driving me
Oh.
crazy.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. No dogs. Just his name
Hmm.
is Clifford.
No
Is there a dog in the
dogs.
film? Probably not.
No.
Grodin
Obviously,
kinda ends up
Grodin
in the dog
wrestles
house.
with Beethoven later in
Right.
life.
Right.
Okay. Yes.
You know Beethoven?
Yeah, the dog.
Clifford was kind of a dry run for Beethoven
Okay.
in terms of the Grodin filmography, right?
As far as him interacting with kids and being a grouch.
And look,
Chaotic
Yeah.
creatures.
looking
Yeah.
like this on a poster. like
Jeez
just, yeah,
Louise.
exactly. Always looking like that.
Yeah.
But check it out.
Okay. I will. I will.
That was
I
the
feel like
box
we're
office?
done. Yeah,
Wow.
that's the box office.
Karen, thank you so much for coming on. People should follow. Well, you're on strike right now from your writing jobs.
Yes. So sad.
I mean, maybe the strike will be over by the time this episode comes out.
When does it come out?
Comes out August 6th.
I don't know if the strike will be over.
Either.
God, I
Right.
hope so.
It would be nice if it ended in July with triumphant gains for the writers,
I mean,
obviously.
if Sully was a strike happened,
He would have done it.
or
July.
Aaron
That's
Eckhart,
true.
that's a better version of that joke.
Okay.
Karen, anything you want to plug?
No.
Cool.
No? Cool.
Easy.
What should I should plug Get a Costco membership.
Yes.
I love Costco.
Ben and I have been trying to plan a Costco run. Costco's my favorite place in the world.
Yeah.
Do you go to the Brooklyn Costco?
Listen, I've never been to a Costco in New York before. I was just thinking of my childhood Costco.
Well, Karen, if I have a car. If you want to go to a Costco, because I've never been to a Costco.
David, you have never offered to drive me to a Costco.
That's because I see plenty of you in my life.
Friends for 10 years. It's my favorite place in the fucking
Well, but you
world.
used to live next to Costco, to the one uptown.
Yes. I, for a number of years, moved specifically to be 2 blocks away from Costco, walking distance from Costco.
That's the dream.
So I could hand cart my way back and forth rather than needing to have a friend with a car.
Or get a cab or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess it'd be pretty annoying. Just be hail a cab and then be like, this pallet of water is going in your car. Right?
Yes, it is in fact annoying. I've been in that position before. Big plugs to Costco. Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you to Marie Barty for our social media and helping to produce the show. Thank you to AJ McKee and Alex Barron for our editing. Leigh Montgomery. Why am I not able to say that name now? Lane Montgomery.
Sure.
Lane Montgomery and the Great American Novel. Keep all of that in, Ben, for our theme song. JJ Birch for our research. Pat Reynolds, Joe Bowen for our artwork. Tune in next week for Thirst.
Next week is Thirst.
We're getting thirsty on Maine.
Thirst.
Next week.
Absolutely.
You could go to blankcheckpod.com for links to some real nerdy shit, including our Patreon Blank Check special features where we do commentaries on film series. And we're now into the oceans, right? We're swimming across those oceans.
Of course, this is coming out in August when we are covering the Oceans films.
Yes.
But also soon we will apparently be doing an episode on The Little Drummer Girl, Park Chan-Wook's TV miniseries.
Yes. Which I'm excited to watch.
Gotta start watching it.
Yeah. You can do that. And as always, reminder that we've got free Patreon membership if you want to sign up. Where episodes from 3 years ago get unlocked every 10 days.
Yeah.
And as always.
Yeah.
I'm a podcaster, but that's okay.
You good, Karen?
Yeah, I think so. I don't have to do anything, right?
No, you don't.
No.
have to do
Okay,
anything.
great.
Just
You don't have to
talk
talk the
whenever
whole
you
time.
want.
I'm
Just
not
sit
going to
here.
talk at all.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.